Welcome to the live stream. How you guys doing? All right, so we got Michael Regina on the other line today. Michael.
Hanging out. How's it going?
I'm good. Oh, and we got links below to a Kickstarter. I don't know, maybe I don't have links below. But I have a cognitive drawing Kickstarter happening right now, so if anyone wants to learn to draw, then that's where you should go.
No learning how to draw. We don't want to do that.
No one wants to learn. Oh, hey, we got some comments. Hey, Sean. Howdy, Jason. Perhaps the stream is 1:30 Pacific. 1:30 Pacific. It's 11:30 Mountain.
We're confused about time.
10:30 Pacific. I don't know. So I guess YouTube tells you a strange time, right? Yay! Amazing, Jason Rubiger. What? Woohoo! Okay, so thanks for commenting, you guys. If you guys have any questions that you want to throw into the comments, into the chat, then right question. Oh, yes, that's right. I just found out I could be. I have enough subscribers to where I can have membership. So if you guys want to be a part of the Brew Crew, you could get a little Brew Crew stamp next to your something or other, and then when you comment, I'll know you're a member, and I'll give you more of a shout out. I don't know if that matters to anyone. All right, so this is Phobos I'm working on. And how you doing, Michael?
Doing okay. I'm still looking to see if I can find a way to screen share my iPad screen to StreamYard, but
yeah. Hey, it's Ahmed. Hey man, you want to come on the stream? You're more than welcome. I need someone who can really draw.
Yeah, I'll pop over to Clip Studio and draw in here. If someone has a way to screen my screen, I'll pop it in. Otherwise, you can always flip me on the video and I'll just sit here and talk. So.
Okay. Zach, you became the first member. I need to give you a present or something. Brew Crew, look at that. So you get a little green little thing. I don't see the Brew Crew stamp. Where's the Brew Crew stamp? It doesn't show up in StreamYard. It gives me this funny little logo next to your name though, so that's good. Well, thanks, Zach. You want to come on the show? You're more than welcome. Did I send you a link? I think I did. I don't know. Did I? I'm bad at this.
We judge you.
We're also streaming on Twitch. Trying to build up my Twitch hours because Twitch demands that you participate. Okay, this is getting boring because I'm not doing anything. Let's start sketching. So Michael's trying to figure out his stream.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to figure it out. It doesn't seem to be figuring it out. But at least, if anything, I can talk and I can work at the same time.
Is good. My pre-qualifications are that you can talk and work, at least get something done while you're on the stream with me. So that's.
And to be fair, my publisher might appreciate that I'm not displaying.
That's
early advanced work, so
just building up excitement.
Yeah, I know.
But
they've never commented on anything I posted, so I'm assuming no one cares. But
yeah,
I try to be careful with what I do and don't show.
Yeah, makes sense. So tell everybody what you do, Michael. What are you working on that your publisher doesn't want you to share?
Yeah, I'm writing and drawing a graphic novel called The Sleepover for Penguin Books through their Razor Bill division. So it's a graphic novel, kind of all ages, middle grade, series, or not a series, it's a standalone book. But yeah, so I finally got the go-ahead from my editor to start on kind of doing some final art. So I'm doing that now.
Awesome. So how long did that take to get the approval to do the final art?
Well, the deal happened about a year ago, and then I've spent the last year writing it and doing kind of a rough version of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, a lot of it was me and my desire to keep rewriting it and keep working on it and changing it. That really slowed that process down. But I finally sent him a finished version of it a couple weeks ago. And yeah, he liked it enough to say, hey, I've got some notes on some other stuff, but these are the sections I feel pretty good about that if you wanted to get started on them, you can, and then I'll get back with you shortly. So.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
it seems like it's like small adjustments at this point, nothing major.
Yeah. And so, tell us about yourself. Oh, and welcome, Zach.
Howdy.
I don't hear you. No voice. Zach can draw, but no sound. Michael can sound, but no draw.
That's how we do. That's how we do around here.
Unless
the only one prepared.
I'm the only one that can't hear him.
I can't hear him.
Okay. Sorry, Zach. I don't know what's going on. So tell everybody about your history in comics. What have you been doing, Michael?
Yeah. So
welcome, Nick.
I came into webcomics probably around the same time you did, in that like the 2005, 2006 space. But nothing I really worked on at that time really gained much traction. I created a series called From Death Till Now that I finished the first book of, and it didn't have a very big audience, but I really learned a lot through that. And then through seeing kind of Kazu Kibuishi's work and the stuff he was doing for all ages comics, I really got excited about that. And so I went off and created a series called Adamsville that's sort of like a Goonies meets the X-Files sort of thing, and that eventually got picked up by Webtoons and was a featured comic on Webtoons. About the same time, Jason, you got picked up by them.
Yeah.
Then I wrapped that up and took some time off, developed a pitch for a new book, and that ended up getting picked up by Penguin.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, you're one of those people that was like, I'm going to get an agent, and then I'm going to get a book deal. And I was like, okay, good luck with that. And then you go off and you do it. And I'm like, oh, wow. Now I want to do what you did, Michael.
I think it was the right time, because I'd certainly tried it in the past and it didn't go that way. So, but I mean, I really took a year off after I finished Adamsville, and I kind of tried to do some self-assessment and be like, hey, why am I not getting where I want to go? And I really felt like there was just some improvements I needed to make that would push me into looking like a more professional artist. And I kind of focused on getting better at my art as well as some of the other areas. And a year later, when I finally went back out again, the book deal came very quick. So
yeah,
it was worth it to take that time.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Woo. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that was my bad. I totally switched the studio, kind of 90-degree turned it, and I totally forgot to plug back in my microphone, and I was like freaking out because I was like, no.
Good. I'm glad we can hear you. All right. Well, now welcome, Nick, as well. I don't know if I guess you can hear us, and I guess we can hear you.
Oh, Nick Welch.
Not yet. Still on mute.
What's up, Michael Regina?
What's up, sir?
What's happening?
We have known you, but I don't think we've ever gotten a chance to chat. So nice to make your virtual acquaintance.
Yeah, I'm always trying to ruffle your feathers on Twitter, but
does it work? Do you feel it works?
No, I'm sort of over exaggerating, obviously.
I try to stay out as much out of the drama now as I can.
That's why I love you, buddy, because that's what I go for.
Thanks. Well, I enjoy drama. I just don't like spending my time on it.
It actually stresses me out, the drama. So
Well, that's kind of more what I mean.
that's
Like,
why
I
I'm
enjoy
usually
it.
on there making jokes.
I enjoy it, like if I'm in a personal conversation. But once you let it onto the internet and anyone can comment, I'm like, this is not fun anymore. Like, this is not a discussion. This is an argument, and I don't enjoy that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure anybody ever wins.
No.
But is it really drama though? If you're having a good discussion, that's not really drama. That's just like conversing.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair.
So
and I think Michael and I do that all the time. I mean, I don't know, maybe not all the time, but once in a while, yeah.
Yeah.
We have great conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I enjoy a good rational-minded discussion about a controversial topic. I will say that. They're just few to be hard to be found.
Do you like to participate in the drama, Zach?
no, I'm not a drama person. I grew up in drama. Literally, just my whole entire childhood was drama. So when drama and stuff starts to happen, I literally block everything out and just leave, and then I wait on the sidelines, and then when things cool back down, then I jump back in. I want nothing to do with drama.
Yeah, I used to be really pretty vocal about stuff during like the 2012 election cycle, 2016, and about political stuff. It's mainly the politics that always gets you in trouble. And after I realized I was just like wasting all this time arguing with people, and they never changed anyone's mind, and we were all just angry at each other, I was like, this is the worst. Like this is, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And so and honestly, the way the internet's gone now, if you're more likely to get yourself in trouble with that inadvertently somewhere along the line. So don't give the internet the fodder. They love to go back and dig crap up.
Yeah, that's true. You might get away with it now, but you might not 10 years from now.
They come back and bite you in the butt in a way you didn't intend it to. So
well, I don't understand like where this I don't where people stopped like treating things like when you walk into someone's house, you respect them, and they have this like, oh, I'm on the internet, so I can wear a mask. But the thing is, everything can get tracked back to you, and then employers and other things, they don't take that into account. That now that we live in such a digital society, that employers, when you go and interview, they will search you up. They will find you on Twitter. They will find you on Facebook, and they will see what kind of person you really are before they will hire you. And so it's this kind of like, just don't put your foot in your mouth. Don't do it.
Yep. And I mean, if that is your job, if what you do on the internet is you do that sort of thing, if that's your personality, then you're going to do it. But if that's not what your intention is, it seems like it's just best to not do it. Just stay out of the conversation, because it's only going to potentially hurt you in the end, I think. And I've never understood as a creative why I would want to cut my audience in half with an opinion that we probably agree a lot more than we think we do. And it's just the nuance where we disagree. And so why piss everyone off for no good reason? So it doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah.
We've talked about that plenty of times, Jason. So
There's a can of worms you're slowly prying open. Slowly.
Yeah, we've talked about how you portray yourself on the internet. More than
I don't mind drama in private, but I don't like a public declaration of drama.
Exactly. Yeah.
No one needs to know what I think about everything.
Yeah. Mike Mayhack used to have a thing. He probably still does on his computer screen that just said, "No one cares what you think. Get back to drawing."
Yeah. I need that.
I know.
I need one that says that, and I also need one that says, "Stop getting distracted. Get back to drawing."
Distractions are big, man.
Yeah.
That's why I installed internet.
Yeah. Like, get off Twitter. Get back to drawing.
That's why I installed Freedom on my phone. It completely blocks me off from that stuff. It's made a big difference. It doesn't necessarily mean that I get more work done, but it does mean that I use my time better. So that if I'm, when I do have a spare moment, instead of wasting it on the internet, I maybe read a book or learn something.
Mhm.
What you working on, Nick? Sorry, put you on the spot.
No, I was going to share. Working on something for the day job. So
Screen. Oh, there's Mia.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Look at that.
illustration for a lunchbox for a zoo.
Wow, that's cool.
Cool.
It's a little bit haphazard because time is money. So
Yeah.
I did this. Can't even really see it, but I did this loose sketch of a white lion over top of an image of a white lion because I do not have enough time to learn the anatomy of a white lion right now just to do this job.
Mm-hmm. I would have traced all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. If it was something else, like comic or something, like I'd put more time into learning it. But for the day job, especially for these guys, I do a lot of sketching out the anatomy over the animals before I do something with it. Because
so what you're saying is screw the day job.
Yeah.
I mean, the day job is going to get for me where I live and stuff, but time is money, like I say. Like I can't spend 4 days doing this.
Sure, I get it.
So, just what it is.
Hey man, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
I'm just thankful I get to do stuff like this.
Once I figured out I could use SketchUp to make comics, I was like, well, that's going to be a thing. Thinking, no reason to sit here and figure out how to draw that car. Just find that model and exploit it. I mean, like it was a lifesaver on the car chase sequence in Adamsville 3. Like, oh my goodness, that sequence would not exist if Google SketchUp wasn't an option to just import a model and sketch over it.
Yeah. Sithra would have been really boring with vehicles if I didn't have some sort of 3D model of it that I had,
What did you use? You used Maya?
No, I cheated. So I used a guy who knew how to do it.
Oh.
I just drew sketches of the design and then sent it to this guy named Oscar.
That's not cheating. That's just being resourceful.
Yeah, I've in my video save time using 3D models or something on YouTube. You can actually I sent a link out or gave the information of the guy who did it for me.
Cool.
This guy in Mexico, really talented, good artist. And yeah, I'll just send him sketches and then he whips up this amazing model, and then I pull it into Blender and find the angle and then trace over it.
What was amazing about what you did is like you actually designed something and then he created a version you could look at it. Yeah. I'm just being a hack. I'm just like going onto the going onto the 3D warehouse and I'm like, I just need a Toyota van. All right.
Yeah, if you just need a Toyota van, you don't need to redesign one.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
My biggest issue is I originally did this design like 3 months ago, and at this point I have no idea what brushes I used originally.
Oh man!
And now I got to add different animals in, make some changes, and switch it out. And I'm like, I don't know what I did.
Yeah,
man. I created this monster design for this book that, when I finish, every panel that she's in is awesome. But it takes like 30 minutes to just draw her in every single panel because of how detailed it is. And
people listening are like 30 minutes to draw every panel. You're fast.
Yeah. It's just to draw her. The rest of the panel might take me longer. I mean, it looks really dope though. Like once it gets finished, like dang, it looks awesome. But it's always worth it in that part.
Welcome, Mia.
Thank you. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Doing very good. I'm trying to figure out Twitch. I don't get it.
What do you not get?
I'm addressing Mia because she's a Twitcher.
She's twitching.
Twitching all the time. So like I go onto my page and it's just blank, and I can't figure out where people commented. I just can't figure anything out. I must click around for a while.
I really wish they didn't change the format because this is like their third iteration in the past 2 years where they changed the whole entire interface of Twitch, and I just stopped trying because it used to be so easy to navigate. It used to be so easy, and then they made it so hard and complicated.
Yeah. Well, are you on, like, if you're live, then you'll see the comments and stuff. I think they're changing it so there's like a visiting page where people can see your old videos, which is a little weird. If you use Streamlabs, there's a way to have the comments just show up on where, like OBS, where you're seeing your stream feed. So you should be able to see the comments there easily.
Yeah. Oops, I need to turn off the sound on this. I just went on to Twitch right now.
Got the echo.
Echo.
You'll go into Twitch and then it just starts playing stuff for you.
If you send me screenshots, I might be able to help if you are looking for something in particular.
Okay. Let me just get to my channel. Where is it? I haven't looked at it while I'm active, so while I'm live.
Oh, Jason, are you on for tonight, or are you skipping tonight?
So, I said yes, unless my head keeps hurting.
Okay.
I kind of woke up with my head hurting, and so I'm like, okay, I'll take a bunch of ibuprofen, and if it's going still there, then I'll have to back out. So this is what it looks like now live. Oh, it's working. Okay. I just have never seen it live because I'm never on Twitch while I'm live. But anyway.
Yeah. If you're live, you should be able to see it.
Yeah. But see, I can see the comments. Like, here's a Twitch comment. Yay, Dr. Morty. So, but that's through StreamYard.
Yeah. It's good to see both, not just like one on YouTube and one on Twitch.
Yeah, it's nice to just all aggregated and thrown into one spot.
Mm-hmm.
I should really turn this off so it doesn't hog my bandwidth. Okay. Let's see what Zach's working on. Oh, what you working on? Is this your city that you modeled the other day? Huh?
Yeah, you've convinced me to work on my comic during these streams, at least for now.
Good.
So it's just a lot of technical stuff, but
yeah,
it'll be fun. I'm excited to color it.
Good. I really just want people to want to come on the stream because they get done with it and they're like, I've done so much work. And I hung out. And I kind of promoted my stuff. Like all the things I checked off. So I'll keep coming on.
That's what it's like for me.
I used to feel guilty when I'd ask someone to come on a live show and we'd just talk for 2 hours and then be like, okay, let's get back to work now. And there was only 10 viewers or something. I'm like, sorry, guys. You did this all for me.
Yeah, but if we like you, that's not a thing.
Well, that's true.
I'm always happy to connect with you. I'm like, oh, I haven't talked to Jason in a while. I get to hang out and talk to Jason.
Yeah.
That's like meeting all the people that Jason knows.
Screw Jason.
Yes, Jason.
I'm just the gateway drug.
It very definitely was like Steven and Josh have talked about this. Like when we were really getting into comics, we would joke around about like, oh man, can you imagine one day we're like on a stream and we're like hanging out with all these guys and like Doug's there, like Kazu's there. And like one day I'm sitting on a stream and Jason's there and Doug's there and Kaz. I'm like, what just happened? how did I get here? What is going on?
Is this real life?
Yeah.
Now you have an agent and a book deal.
Yeah. 10 years makes a difference, right?
Exactly how I feel right now. I'm like, someday I'm going to be on a stream with Jason and Michael Regina. Now it's happening right now.
It's happening.
And welcome, Doug. Doug just showed up.
Hello.
That's my dream.
Oh,
Was just talking about him. See what happened?
Heard my name.
He's like, what? I heard my name. I must jump to the internet.
It's like I had a dream. I would go on someone's show and be able to transmit my digitally caught hepatitis to everyone. And my dream came true.
What?
Oh, my ears.
What is happening?
I'm just
Digitally
kidding.
Caught
Kind of.
hepatitis.
I'm going to make a digital form.
Your campaign finished, right, Doug? I got your email, but I'm staying off the internet a lot more these
Good
days. So.
man. It's always a good move. The campaign closed, but we're in demand.
Cool.
It's like in July.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
You're still climbing in demand?
It's going very slow. Like the drop off. That last day we raised $42,000 in one day.
Yeah. Wow.
And then it dropped off to it was like 3,000 the next day. Within 2 days it was like down to like 300 or 400.
Yeah. Wow.
So it goes off. And a lot of that is Indiegogo doesn't push it.
Oh,
After it's out of the campaign is a very good time to push, but it'll have another little spike at the end before I close the campaign, which will be probably in June or July.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been meaning to connect with you on that original page that we were talking about like a while ago, but I figured you're so busy with stuff. I didn't want to bug you about it. I was like, that's like constantly shipping stuff. So
yeah, people who come to me with like specific requests, that is my nightmare. Like I just can't deal. I'm trying to fulfill like 9,000 packages.
right.
I have just like, everyone's like, I have a personal favor. I'm like, I really want to help you. But like you realize as soon as this conversation's over, I'm going to forget every detail.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll write it on a little Post-it or something. And then, I guess I took care of that, sticking it on a Post-it.
And then it goes on the pile of Post-its.
A pile of 800 wrinkled 2-year-old Post-its all over my computer.
That's how my desk is. It's Post-its of reminder of specific.
Basically, get a hold of my assistant, Mr. Phillips. If you get a hold of him, he's smart. I'm dumb.
Yeah, I figured. I was like, you're like out of one campaign into the next. So I'm just like, that man is you're just constantly shipping stuff. So I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't want to be another cog in that wheel, but I was like, I do want to touch base with
I
you.
love shipping you. I'll get you. I can give you original art. We're close enough friends. I'd give it to you, but you're not going to ever get me to ship something. You have to get it through Mr. Phillips.
Okay. I will. If you give me, Mr.
Doug said I
Phillips
could have a free
information.
piece of art, and then just tell him quickly what you want, and then we'll do our best.
Do I just send him an email through your website? Like, how would I get a hold of him?
That's a good question. I don't even know how to get a hold. I don't even know how to get a hold of him. He's not even into work today, so how am I gonna?
I like this like complete wall of security you've created. Like,
It's not intent. This is the thing. If you want to do, man, look at how blurry I am. I just want to do books and screw everything else. I don't even care about my career because I have to do books.
I hear that.
So it's like my priority is always to sit here and draw. And it's going to mean I'm going to lose some clients and some customers and things going like, I can't believe you're so unprofessional. I'm like, I make a lot of books.
That's why that's why you hire your assistants and things.
That's right.
I'm getting
You
ready
can. I think you might be able to find him. I'm trying to think of how you can find him. He answers a lot of my Twitter, so send me a Twitter message.
Okay.
So
we can-
all of you guys sending me naked pictures of yourself, he reads all my tweets. I usually don't see your naked pictures. He does.
That's awesome.
That was to
Yeah.
Jason.
Is he okay? So how old is Mr. Phillips?
He's 18. He's in high. He's just
So you-
graduating high
You
school.
guys are sending naked pictures to an 18-year-old.
Yeah, can you believe it?
That's horrible.
Unbelievable.
Cause of
Hold
Bunch
up,
of artists.
We got to take a step back here. Is that legitimately happening, or is this a joke?
No, I was
Okay.
kidding.
Okay. Well,
It's
weird
gonna
things,
happen now.
Yeah, now I'm gonna get a ton.
weird things happen with you on Twitter, so I'm not putting it past the realm of
Yeah,
possibility.
no, everything that you've heard about me is false. So I just like basically only lying on Twitter.
You mean you didn't make Neverhood?
I pretty much did not. No, almost everything I've done that I'm famous for is not true.
But yeah, I'll connect with you offline about all of
Okay.
it.
I always hear about Mr. Phillips, and I always go, "Who is this guy, Mr. Phillips?" And then I'm like, "Wait, is it like an intern?" You know, it started out kind of subtle.
He's the key to my success.
Yeah, you talk about him all the time. I need a Mr. Phillips.
You do. Everyone does.
Yeah.
Mr. Phillips like runs the entire business.
I have a Mrs. Phillips.
There you go. Okay. Ami, people really liked your piece of art. I got like 680 likes on Twitter, and they all said you're amazing. If you want to read them, you can.
I want what?
If you want to read them, you can
Where?
on my Twitter.
Where?
Just avoid the ones that say I'm a homophobe. Don't read those. Over on that computer, go into Twitter.
That's still a thing?
So, Mr. Phillips, I found him. He was a classmate of Ami's. We've known them for a couple years now from school. And he's just a really super disciplined, very serious guy. So, like, when he comes to work, man, it is not time to screw around.
Yeah.
He's mean. He gets stuff done.
How did you know that he was going to be the right fit? Was he
I could just tell by a personality type. He was
is he into business and stuff?
No. He's actually wants to be a filmmaker.
Okay.
And I said, I'll do my best to help you with your film career. I go, I can teach you some screenwriting. We can maybe even crowdfund your first movie or something. I go, but I'm losing clients because I can't properly service my Indiegogo campaign. Like, details are falling through the cracks. And I just started kind of showing him the tools on Indiegogo. He instantly just took over the whole thing. So every email you get from me is from him. Really.
That's cool.
And that was the other thing, as I said, you can always tell when I'm tweeting because it's terrible. That's me showing up. And I go, I'm not fit to really talk to the public. Like, I shouldn't be doing anything. So you take over all of my social media you want. He'll post anything he wants on my behalf, and answer all my email as me. So if someone requests something, he's answering all that. Some guy asked for a sketchbook archive, going, can I still get the sketchbook archive? And I always tell people no. And then I see him mailing one out. He goes, I did one for you. Here, sign this thing. And I'll put it.
Mr. Phillips.
That's exactly right. Mr. Phillips.
Told you no.
And he's smart enough to like help me with campaign advice. Like, I go, this is what I'm thinking for the next Kickstarter. And he knows enough about the audience now, kind of the gist of everything, to be really wise about that stuff.
That's great.
That's cool.
Okay.
That would be an awesome education for him.
I'm getting ready to start training my daughter up as a flighting assistant.
Oh, poor you. If your daughter's
she-
like mine,
Well, she's really into she really is into art and stuff, and she's always asking to help, and I'm like, sure,
yeah. But will
You
she
wanna-
take direction from dad?
we'll see.
Yeah, that's.
We'll find out.
I have another daughter who's an artist, and she's always drawing anime figures. And I go, I'm a professional artist. I could help you. She goes, you're always walking around telling me like I'm a pro, like I can help you. I go, okay, I'll just let you draw. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I am a pro, and I
Yeah,
can help you.
yeah. She thinks it's a joke. She doesn't. She treats me like I'm not, like I've never done anything. I'm like, okay, good. You draw. I didn't want to help you anyways.
She's like, this is me now, Dad.
Yeah, I know. Just give me my thing. I just want my thing. And I want it to be art. I don't want it to be your thing. Like, okay.
Don't you let me be me?
Okay, get in there.
Eventually, she'll wake up and be like, "Oh yeah, Dad had stuff to say that was like helpful."
I know time will bear that out one day,
Right.
but it'll be after like 12 years of art school, and she'll go like, "Man, I learned everything the hard way," which is how I had to learn everything too. I'm so
Sure.
stubborn.
Yeah, sure.
She's the one she's most like me.
My experience was like the opposite growing up. Like I was hungry for people to teach me, and my teachers looked down on comics so much that it was hard to find good teachers. And I mean, I had a college professor who literally was like, "This is not art. You're wasting your time." And it was finally getting a professor in college who didn't feel that way that sort of got me back to pursuing comics again.
Wow.
Cool.
I actually had a high school teacher who was just like sitting there and he's like, "I bet I could draw comics better than you." I'm like, "I'm a 16-year-old kid and you're like a 40-year-old dude." I'd hope so.
Yeah.
It just was like such a weird, who says that?
Yeah, I bet I can avoid being a teacher better than you.
Yeah, seriously. But I'm just like, who says that to a kid? Like, it was weird. I don't know.
Thank most of you.
Thank God my parents weren't that way. My parents were like, "Yeah, if you love it, go do it. We'll do whatever we can to help you." So
Nice.
they don't fully understand it. And I don't think any of them have actually read any of my books, but they're supportive of it.
My parents never read my books. Thank God.
Yeah. You can like deal with all your parental demons through your comics.
Yeah.
Jelly doesn't read mine, and so I get a lot out of the arguments we have and throw them into the books.
That's awesome.
It wasn't. Did you have to learn like to deal with that to some extent? Like, because I remember, like, my wife will always read my books, but there's definitely been times where she's doesn't understand why I'm going a direction or doesn't think I'm doing the right thing. And like learning how to separate that in our relationship. And it's like, as long as she supports me, that's all I really care about, I don't know if you've had to deal with that with Shelly if she's not reading your books, but
Yeah, I've gone back and forth because she kind of was really excited about my career when we first got married, and then it just kind of faded, and now we're married, and so it was kind of like hard to deal with that at first.
Jason, was she always doing jewelry? Because I always liked her jewelry.
She
thought
started
was
that after
pretty.
we got married because she was a pharmacy technician and she was going to college to be a pharmacist.
Uh-huh.
And she would come and she did appeals. And
So she's the smart one because you have to be
Oh,
basically a
she's totally
genius
she's totally smart.
to learn all those.
Yeah. And so she was going to college doing all this stuff like dealing with appeals and grievances and stuff for these medication companies. And she would come home crying because she just hated everything about it. And she's like, but she felt like she had to get the education and do the career that was good, that her parents would be proud of. And I was like, what? Why don't you find something you actually love doing And so that's where jewelry came from.
Cool.
And so it's, she stopped going to college because she was like, I don't want to be a pharmacist. So in a way, I've kind of detoured her from an education.
Yay, making people dumber.
I don't know if it's like the best thing, but she seems happier.
Yeah.
So when you say she was excited about your career in the beginning, are you talking about like when you were in film and like DreamWorks, or like she knew you wanted to make comics, she was excited about that and that sort of?
Well, when we got married, like the appeal of an artist working in movies and professionals, like it was a little bit more exciting.
Sure.
But now it's like it's the same old thing, It's what I do.
Eventually you realize it's work. It's just it's just job.
Trash cans are flying around, Dad.
That's my daughter. It's windy outside, so the neighbor's trash cans are blowing down the street.
It looks like
Nice. I remember when I was developing Adamsville, like one day my wife was just like, I do not like this idea. I don't think it's good.
That's good.
And I was just like, well, I disagree and I'm going to go make it. And I appreciate your support. And then I remember the first time she read it though, she was like, I cried. I loved it. And I was like, all right, so that worked. That worked out.
All right, who wants to be on screen? Mia? You gotta stop drinking.
Don't want to squeak the bottle. Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Wait, this is a drink and draw session? Nobody talks.
Just water. Stay hydrated.
We getting crunk in here?
Hey, you guys, if you're tuning in, if you want to ask questions in the comments, we will discuss them. Quite possibly, just make sure to put question in all caps, or you can throw a super chat at me.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How's your art book going on Kickstarter?
It's going good. It is going very good. I don't know where we're at. We're really close to crossing 25,000 last I checked.
Oh, it's very good.
Nice.
Let me check.
Well done.
I want to get you on, and I want to get that other guy on. What's his
Other guy?
He draws the toad. He does the show where he has a toad for his orange toad.
I don't know. I don't know who that.
Oh, you're talking about Dela Cruz?
Yeah. Is that the guy?
Yeah. Who did the parody?
No.
Is he making a drawing book as well? Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So it'll be like a competition.
Let me see. I just thought you guys went well together is all. And I really like the idea of teaching people how to draw.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's over on Facebook. Let me find him. He's got a really good YouTube channel too. That guy, some of his videos get like 100,000 views.
Ding.
Yeah.
I've never hit 100,000.
Just doing tutorials, man.
Have you guys seen that Ross Draws guy?
Yeah.
I've enjoyed watching him with the kids because he's kind of playful and, has fun with it.
He got to study under, oh my gosh, what's his name? Hold on. Go continue conversation while I go do some research.
Effort that.
He's definitely, I mean, sometimes I feel like his art is maybe a little more risque than I would care to show my children. It's not that he goes overboard, but he, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just a little bit on the line. But as far as like his personality and the way he carries himself, he's a lot of fun. He's super popular too on YouTube. If you never
He's a
checked
good
his stuff out.
example of how you don't have to teach people stuff to have a art channel.
Right.
Like he's just entertaining.
Right.
Yeah.
I sort of stumbled on him one day and I was like, dang, I like his art. He's fun. Started showing it to the kids and they were really into it too. They like his dog, so that helps too.
Yeah, I need to get a dog.
Me
I need
too.
Move my office to like a building where I can have a dog here. then I would actually get a dog.
I want a dog.
If I could bring a dog to work with me, that'd be sweet.
I like the idea of having.
Oh, the
a dog.
guy's name is Dan Ekis. 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 He does like little videos like how to stay motivated with time management, drawing tips.
Yeah.
KIS.
I just picked up a book that's, I think, along those lines called The War of Art.
Oh yeah, that's
Never read it.
Pressfield. Is that the one?
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Pressfield.
Yeah, I think so.
I went
I
to
heard
email
good
him
stuff
about
about it.
that, and he gave me some advice.
What
Say
was
that
it?
again, Doug.
Can you
What?
share it?
Well,
I once emailed Stephen Pressfield about that
oh yeah.
book, that motivational book, because I really liked his book, The Hot Gates or whatever it's called. Gates of Fire.
Mm-hmm.
It's his version of the 300, which is one of the best, not like pop novels I ever read. It's fantastic.
Mm.
And I just emailed him about his writing, and it's very good. About not being afraid. Is that the one?
Yeah, The War of Art.
Yeah, War of Art.
I think it's about sort of breaking through creative barriers and like getting stuff done. I think it is kind of,
Yeah.
time management and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And from what I gather, it seems to be like, hey, just stop being a lazy ass and get your work done.
That is basically what it is.
Which is usually the answer whenever someone's like, how do you do this? I'm like, well, go make stuff. That's sort of what changed in my mind years ago. Was I was listening to an interview with Kazu, and he was basically like, the reason why you're probably not getting, he was talking about the reason why people aren't getting their books published or whatever is that they lose their focus and you don't finish the books. And so like, finish the books. So I was like, okay, I should just go do that.
Yeah.
And when I finally did that, suddenly stuff started working. But now though, I don't think people finishing is as big an issue as it used to be, especially with crowdfunding being what it is. It seems like a lot of people are finishing stuff. It's maybe more of a marketplace issue than anything. Finding your place in all of it.
I think more people are seeing that they can actually do their own thing too, and so they're trying that. Before it was always about finding the right gatekeeper to pass through,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was a little more intimidating to know where to go. And so you'd finish something, but then you're trying to figure out who to present it to, and so seeing that people can just pitch it up to the public on Kickstarter, it's like, oh yeah, okay, well I'll try my book there then.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of allowed all the really good artists to come out of the woodwork and actually show what they're doing on their own. I think.
I think that's true. If we hadn't had that kind of movement in general, I don't know if I would have kept making comics, mostly because I just didn't care about the comics that were being made. It's like, do I want to go make superhero books? I don't. Do I, And I was really in love with that CrossGen Comics label. I don't know if y'all remember that when it came out. But then they kind of went bankrupt and all this other stuff happened. And I was like, well, now I've lost them, so I don't know what to do. And then discovered webcomics. I was like, oh, you can just make whatever you want, put it on the internet. That works too.
Yeah.
I had a girlfriend in college who was not okay with me making comics because of how objectifying it was to women.
Oh, brother.
And I couldn't disagree with her. I was like, yeah, I kind of hate that too.
Come on.
But I don't know what to do
kids.
about it.
You kids.
But I was also like, what about the way it portrays men? What about it? Dudes aren't walking around with six packs all over the place.
What?
I'm so offended by all the six-pack comic dudes.
Yeah, if every man doesn't have a pot belly like every guy I know, I don't want to hear about this objectification stuff.
It was just a weird argument, and not because I didn't think she had a point. But I was like, I don't want to tell these kinds of stories either, But that was sort of what the marketplace was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but are
it
you
was
talking
all
about
severe.
porn? I mean,
No,
no
no,
one
no.
wants to make that. I don't see objectification of women in most stories.
No, but if you look at like think of the Image comics in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was just kind of hypersexualized, that sort
Yeah.
of thing.
They're, I mean, definitely idealized,
Yeah.
but I mean, you'd see the same thing in marble carvings, Michelangelo, and the idea that that's somehow,
Yeah.
Right.
and it's usually people that are against objectifying women the most that are most for like being pro porn and pro furry. And I'm like going, how's that not objectifying women?
Right.
The hypocrisy is everywhere.
It's more like a we're angry at normal human behavior. The Image is different because I always felt like a lot of artists, they're not really storytellers. They're just basically pinup artists and illustrators just throwing up pretty art, and they don't care about story. That's, to me, the bigger offense.
Mm-hmm. It's true too.
It's like, tell a story, dude.
Well, I think just
draw whip.
I think
It's not
just
a
at
story.
the time that conversation was happening, there was a shift happening in the way stories are being told in comics in the United States. And it was we were starting to move away from like the superhero stuff, and I wasn't particularly interested in that. And CrossGen was sort of presenting a middle ground of like it was superhero-esque but long form storytelling. And I was like, okay, maybe this will be the route to go. And then that collapsed. And thank God for like Scholastic coming along and saving everything. So with picking up Bone and all that sort of stuff, and just giving us a viable outlet for stories that were like that. And then Image, the way Image has actually changed over the years. I think they're the best publisher in comics right now in like the main field. They make really good books.
I like Image and Dark Horse best, I think.
Dark Horse has some good stuff too.
Pretty dang amazing, man. The indies are just on fire. And really, that's where all the best books, I mean, that's where Jeff Smith's Bone came from.
Yeah.
Indies. Hellboy was always more like an independent feel to it. Cerebus. Non-cape stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Ninja Turtles.
I still have copies of my Image versions of Bone in my long box.
Oh, yeah.
Have we strayed into uncomfortable territory? Everyone got super quiet.
Oh no.
Just focus.
All right, fair.
Yeah. Sometimes I just get focused. That's why I need people on the stream with me. So
As long as you're working.
as long as everyone's getting stuff done, that's my rule.
That's why I came on. I go, I got some work to do. I'll go on Jason's stream and work.
Yeah. It's been keeping me really motivated, surprisingly. Before it was kind of a burden. I think it's because I was reserving live streaming for non-work related stuff.
Well, you can't sit there and be lazy when everyone's watching you, right?
Yeah.
They came here to watch you.
And I think it's good for other artists to see kind of how slow and boring and kind of methodical, you have to sit down and draw every day to get a big book done. They need to see just how many hours it takes.
Yeah. Let me check
So
out.
I'm back to drawing finished art again. I was telling Jason about this before you got on, Doug. My editor finally gave her approval to get going.
Cool.
And I got to tell you, like, I've forgotten how physically straining drawing pages all day is. Like on my shoulders and my neck. Like, artists got to be more active, man. We got to take better care of ourselves. I don't know if y'all have that issue, but goodness, I'm all tense in my shoulders and everything. It hurts.
Oh yeah, got that. I've done my research, by the way. Jamie Jones.
Oh yeah, Jamie Jones. He's
Yeah,
super talented.
let's go way back. Let's go half an hour back into the conversation. Jamie Jones.
I wouldn't have thought that because he doesn't. Their styles are like the content that they create seems very different, but
well, actually,
the application of it looks very similar.
Is stuff from his book that he did, like those landscapes and stuff. You can really see the Jamie Jones sort of aspects of large, kind of like wide strokes and very, very just tones, layers, and stuff. You can kind of see it in his landscape book.
Oh yeah.
As far as characters, though, yeah, completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, Jamie Jones is super talented.
Mm-hmm. It was kind of weird though. I was having the hardest time finding him because if you go look up Bungie and stuff, they don't tell you who the artists are at all. And that kind of brings up a weird thing that I was going to ask is like, what do you guys think about how pretty much the industry is like kind of pushing down the creatives, trying not to make rock stars because they don't want to have to pay artists more money because people think they're really good, And I think that's what is starting this thing. Like what we're doing is like we're like, people would rather just deal with us directly, that we can actually connect with our audience directly.
We're why the games companies don't do it though. They're smart as a business, but dumb as a place for creatives to want to stay. Because you can't find their credits.
Working in Hollywood though too. It's the studios know people in the studios know the talent. But outside of the studios, no one knows who anyone is, even though they're amazing, talented people.
Think
and
about
then
that sometimes.
In commercials, it was even worse. You never got credit for anything. You just did. We like had James Baxter come in and animate some awesome commercials, and no one knew he did it. They're just awesome commercials.
Yeah, I didn't realize, like, who James Burke is? Did the Bird and Squirrel comics?
Oh yeah.
Like he apparently had a pretty big career in animation before he started making.
He did. I knew him at Nickelodeon. He used to. I did a book tour with he and Raina. He was a great guy.
Seems that way.
Yeah, and he still does a ton of freelance animation. He just tries to stay focused on his books.
Yeah, my editor picked up his new series, so I'm excited to get to see that. But I was kind of researching him, and I was like, oh, crap. Kind of to your point, like he's had a big career, but you wouldn't have known it because it was in the background. It was a part of the machine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's interesting to see like how he's broken off from that. I started noticing that it seems like a lot of really talented children's book illustrators are coming out of places like Pixar and stuff now.
Yeah, Dan Santat came out of that world.
And then I don't know if she's related to Glenn Keane, but there's a Keane that came out.
Elizabeth Keane?
Might be.
Or no, Claire.
Yeah.
Claire. It's Claire on a Cloud. She has a great Instagram with her little watercolor things. That's his daughter.
Is it? Yeah.
That's Glenn Keane's daughter.
I mean, you see the name Keane and you're like probably related to her.
Yeah.
And super talented.
Well, she's been drawing forever. When he was over in France on Tarzan, that's where she met her husband. She married a French guy.
Nice.
They both do art.
I didn't realize he was the director on Tangled for a while. Then I guess he got sick and had to step down.
And he's another reason why they don't want to credit artists. Like back when he was big, the early 90s, like that's when the art animation, the salaries just went through the roof. Once multiple studios, you had Warner Brothers, DreamWorks, Disney, they were all competing with each other for animators. And the salaries just went to the millions. Like these guys all started getting agents. They all had talent agents. James Baxter too. Like they were paying millions, like rock stars.
Have you watched that documentary, the Image Revolution? It's like the story of how Image Comics was founded.
Oh yeah, I think I did. Is that the Sci-Fi Channel one?
No, there is a version on there, but I guess they probably talked about the same story because they were pretty close. But they were talking about how, like, when Image first came out, they were making all this money per issue. These kids, they would hire these kids to come in as artists. They're like, and we'd give them their first check, and it was like for like $250,000, and we never see the guy again.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't get him to come to work. They're just getting paid so much money.
Yeah, because the
They weren't used to
royalties,
it.
they were selling like 1 million copies of a comic, which was unheard of, And the
pretty cool,
Disney
Doc.
animators talk about suddenly there were a bunch of Lamborghinis in the parking lot. Like animators were never that way before. Suddenly they were all like these rock stars.
I mean, hey, they're putting a lot of themselves into that, so it's not.
Oh, it's
completely
true.
unwarranted.
And I saw something similar once all these Netflix series picked up and all the storyboard artists. It was hard to get a storyboard artist that could work. I mean, they could draw. They were coming right out of college and could barely draw. And if they were a warm body, a studio would just throw them on a project. And it's like anything that's hot in the industry, man, it can really jack up the prices of someone's artwork.
Did you see the story that came out this morning? Josh sent it to me that Universal Pictures and AMC are going to war.
Yeah. AMC won't play Universal Pictures movies because they started releasing them on stream.
It's going to change the landscape.
Oh, man, things are really going to change.
And I mean, this was coming. Like the quarantine just sped it all up.
Yeah, this is just like bookstores going digital, fighting brick and mortar, fighting digital is all it is. But DreamWorks did put Trolls on video on demand, Trolls 2, and it made like $100 million.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. And it was probably more pure profit straight up because you didn't have to contend with splitting a larger percentage with this.
Didn't have to split their fees.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that's what happened. So that was actually their movie that was just streaming.
Yeah,
supposed to be
because it was supposed to come out the weekend the quarantine started.
Mm.
And so they just were like, well, we'll release it straight to VOD. And it apparently made a ton of money. And I don't mind the marketplace having options, but I also don't want to see movie theaters go away. So it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate this. But
they're going to go away.
Fight.
They're going to go away hard.
Their AMC is going to lose that fight unless all the other theaters get on board with them. They don't need them. The studio doesn't need them, and that's. You know what I mean? It's a sad reality, but it's reality.
Yeah.
Also, the plus could be that maybe the theaters start becoming more competitive as a venue to go to. Because when I'm spending $6 for a Coke at a movie theater, it's like, guys, the ticket pricing at the theater has gone up to a point where it's a big investment to take your family to a movie theater, or I could pay $20 and rent it from home and watch it with my whole family, not have to deal with all the mess, But I love going to the theater, so here's the conundrum. As a general rule.
Hey, everybody, welcome Austin Shirtliff.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Austin's
Hey, guys.
been helping me with a lot of marketing stuff for the cognitive drawing campaign.
Nice.
Did we lose Nick along the way? Did he bounce out?
I don't know. He must have wanted to get out of here.
We didn't like him anyway.
Hey, we got a question. Anyone going to be on the Drawn and Quartered tonight? Zach, you're probably going to be there, right?
I'll be there.
Okay, I'm planning on it unless something happens.
Yeah, you might want to confirm it with Edwin or Mike, though, because that fills up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I already told Mike. Emailed me asking. I said,
okay.
Yeah, and I might bow out last minute if my head hurts or something.
Yeah.
What are they drawing tonight on
Tonight is Tekken.
Oh, cool.
So what is this?
It's a drawing show, contest show.
Oh, cool. I've not heard of it.
Tekken. Oh man, I gotta look that up now.
You got to Google the word Tekken. It's so hard. Put in.
I mean,
what are you gonna do?
It's. I know it's a video game, and it's gonna have all these characters with all these elaborate armor and.
Oh, it's got the cool lion-headed guy.
Yeah, King. That's what I
Okay.
was planning on drawing. I was like, yes, I'm gonna draw King.
He's the
I
one
have
everyone
no
wants
idea.
to draw, King.
I've never played it. Oh, it's just like Final Fantasy VII last week. Sheesh. Okay. Hey, Dom. Dom has a question regarding writing your stories. Do you focus on writing from point A to Z, or do you have to jump back and forth between a lot between plot, character development, world building, stuff like that? Any tips? Any ideas?
I do the Doug method.
Mm.
I watched one of your streams like a long time ago, Doug, and then I got a giant thing of note cards, and then
Oh,
kind
good
of
man.
did it that way because it makes sense because you can see it all together, and then you can
Yep.
change things and whatnot. And I was ever since then, that's the way I've done it. So
So it's really both.
Yeah.
It's you're jumping around, but you definitely have your beginning, middle, end kind of fit that you're working from, and you can insert cards however you want.
Yeah, I kind of have the beginning, middle, and end, and then I think I just kind of plow straight through it, and I discover things along the way. But I stick to these tracks pretty closely. I like thinking of it like a road trip. You know where you're going, you know where your stops are, but you might have flat tires and detours and see something cool or find a good restaurant along the way.
Need some flaming hot Cheetos at the gas station.
Mistakes were made.
Yeah, I feel like my story writing is very sporadic. Kind of like how I do comics. Like if I'm doing something for a client, I'll be like, okay, thumbnail, sketch, inks, all in order. But when it's my own work, I get overexcited and just like, oh, I want to start filling the colors for this or start inking when I'm still not done with sketching. But I think it's really important for me to know where the story's going. So I guess it's more like a road trip where you get lost a lot, but eventually you'll get where you're supposed to go.
Yeah, I get lost a lot.
I can tell you what it ideally looks like for me and what the reality is, because that's probably more an accurate way to describe it. I definitely start off with, I like to write out whole treatments, plot out all the major story beats, and then I try to jump into writing a draft. But from there, it could just go off the rails. Like, I mean, the version, like the sleepover, is not at all what it was when we started. And I'm fine with that, because at the end of the day, what I want is a great book. So if it means rearranging entire sequences or endings, if it's what I got to do, I'm going to do it. But so, yeah, my idea would be that I write a treatment, then I write a script, I adhere to that script, and I make a book. But the reality is I write a treatment, I write a script, I start making that book, and then I realize a lot of it's garbage, and I rewrite a lot of it.
I think it's amazing how just because you work on something, it'll give you a false positive that it's a good story.
Yeah.
It feels, and then you at the end, I've finished whole books, and I go, "Is this any good?" I don't know.
Yeah,
But yet I wrote the script and felt strong enough about it to draw it for 6 months.
One of my favorite person to get feedback from is Stephen McCraney.
Yep.
Because he doesn't hold back, and he's extremely story smart. I don't know if you guys have like ever actually dug into a conversation with that, but he has a really good feel for when something is working and when something isn't. And so, like, it's almost like the barometer test for me, that if I hand something to him and he's like, yeah, that's good, I'm like, all right, I figured it out, you know. And it doesn't mean that he likes everything that I did, but he something about it, he's like, yeah, it feels like you figured that out, you know.
That is
so, like,
a great resource to have, a guy who you trust.
So, like, I gave him the rough draft of the sleepover last week, and I got his notes back, and he was just like, I have a couple small story notes, but it's the best thing you ever made, and did a good job. And I'm like, all right, well, I feel better now. Could still be garbage, though, so I gotta fix.
And he's super humble too. That's what's awesome about Stephen.
Very smart, very humble.
Yeah, he's not gonna be like, you gotta do it this way, period.
One of the things that's awesome talking to him is, like, I say this about him a lot. I think he genuinely loves the craft in a way that I don't think a lot of us do. Like, he wants to be great at it. not just finish stuff. He wants to be great at it. And so he just seems like he's constantly trying to learn and apply, and you just see it in his work over time. He just gets better and better and better as he keeps going. He's a smart dude, and a good guy. I got to be in his wedding, which was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
We were supposed to go visit. He was going to try to move to Japan this year, and Josh and I were going to go visit him, and then coronavirus happened. So that's not happening.
Why was he going to move to Japan?
He was going to, I think, help out with some missionary groups there.
Well, we were supposed to take a trip to Japan in May, end of May.
Dang, coming up.
Family trip. Got smashed.
That stinks.
Yeah.
I know. I've never been out of the countries. I was really excited to go, and stupid the virus. Just messing everything up for everybody. Awesome. What's going on with your book, man?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I mean,
Austin hangs his head.
Well, because I remember the first few episodes you released, I was like, "Dang, man, like this looks great." And then I mean, to a large extent, I don't hang out on the internet as much as I used to, so I could very well just be missing stuff. But
well, so part of the problem was I was doing that comic as part of like a project for my master's program, and then when I finished it, I started a PhD program. So that's one of the biggest things that
that's
got in the way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been a big thing. The other problem was that my issue that I kind of run into right now while I'm trying to, learn how to tell stories is that I'll come up with a story and I'll write something out and I'll start working on it. And then as I get into it, like with that story, I got in a little ways and I wasn't really happy with some of the story aspects of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of got to go back and rework some of that.
Gotcha.
So
well, it looked really good, man.
Thank you.
It's very clean, really sharp. So I hope you get back to it.
Yeah.
And I saw your Instagram message. I appreciate it. That you'd sent last evening.
Yeah.
Appreciate the compliments. But yeah, I've talked about it some. I use an app on my phone that blocks me from Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. So like I will often see
awesome
things.
app.
Wonderful thing you speak of.
Well, I will often see messages. Well, it's called Freedom. The app is called Freedom. And but it'll tell me Instagram private messages. I'll see them, but I can't get into it. So like I saw your message, but I couldn't read it. So I couldn't respond to it. So I was like, thanks. I'll have to try and remember to respond to that later.
They should have called that app Mom. Mom.
Call it what?
Mom.
Mom.
Get off that app.
Dude, it has really been a lifesaver for my attention and time. I just got so sick of like going out to restaurants and like whether you wanted to or not, like I would take my phone out and I would have it out and I'm sitting there with my children and I should be enjoying their company. But instead I'm sucked into this device. And I'm like looking around the restaurant and the whole restaurant is full of parents sitting there playing on their phones while their kids are there. And I'm just like, there's no boundary or buffer, between when this thing should be in my life and when it shouldn't.
That's true.
And so finding that app, it was like, I can still enjoy these things, but only when that app shuts down. So I tell it to shut it down at like 10 o'clock at night. I can use it for about 30 minutes before I go to bed. And then it turns back on in the morning. Because do I really need to spend hours on there? Probably not. It's the value that you get from it isn't particularly high. And I'm not self-controlled enough to just not go there. So,
yeah, I've definitely had periods in my life where I've done that too, where I just could not control it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got 4 little kids, so I've had multiple times where I'm like, man, I am wasting time I should be spending with them. Why am I staring at this?
It's definitely, if like seriously, if it's something where where you feel like you have a hard time with that, try out the Freedom app. It's like $30 a year, but I figured the amount of time I'll get back will more than pay for it, from an attention span level, getting my work done. And especially like when I sit down to work on comics at my desktop where I don't run Freedom on a schedule, I will find that I'll be drawing and then all of a sudden I'm on Twitter and I'm like, no, get off of here. So then I just turn it on the computer. So then I'm just shut down out of everything. And all I can do on the computer is get work done. And so it's very helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Worth giving it a shot if that is an issue you struggle with at all.
All right, gang, I got to jump.
All right, Doug. Thanks for hanging.
Mr. Phillips arrived. So.
Oh,
Care
I
of.
missed Phillips.
See him up there. He is mysterious. Mr. Phillips working.
He's keeping out sketchbooks.
Nice.
You're like, stop.
Sending your
Drawing.
stuff out without your
He's
permission.
writing and drawing everything for me.
It's good to see you, man. Congratulations on the campaign.
Good to see you again. God bless you all.
See you, man. Bye.
See ya.
All right, now it's quiet.
Now you just have me, the talkative one.
Yeah. That works. See if there's any more people in the chat commenting or questioning. I do have a question. Here's a question. For the last months, I've been drawing a comic page every day. I've started to get bad wrist pain, some neck pain. I sit at an angled table and draw with a pencil and fine liner. Any tips? Anyone?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I
Take
have some
breaks.
tips. Yeah.
What are your tips?
Wear a wrist brace. It helps. It'll definitely help keep your wrist from locking up. And I've also started doing shoulder and neck, like light yoga stuff. And most of it's just stretching out your shoulders and your back. And that has really helped. I find that I kind of have to do that. Otherwise, I just get really tense. Because you do sort of like get into this like hunch, as you're sitting. And seeing like what this can do to people's bodies it's not a joke. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen this. There's a documentary with Naoki Urasawa. Do y'all know who he is?
No.
He's a Japanese comic creator who created Monster and Pluto and the 20th Century Boys and all that stuff. At one point, he went on a hiatus for years because he basically developed tennis elbow as an artist. And he was in such excruciating physical pain, he couldn't draw. And so it can sound funny to say like, hey, take care of yourself here, but it's true. It really can mess you up if you have, maybe even if you have bad posture issues already, and it only expounds on them, Yeah. So I found that sort of yoga wrist brace is nothing intense. Like I maybe do it for 5 minutes, and then, but it just makes a big difference. So that'd be my recommendation.
And there's also like hand stretches, like where let's see, I don't know which position I'm in where you can see my hands, but having your
hold on.
hand, have your hand at like a right angle, kind of stretch it gently for like 10 seconds, and then do downward for 10 seconds, and like having your elbow straight. That helps a lot. And then getting like a rubber band or something and using it to stretch your hands the opposite direction, especially if you're working with something that's really like detailed. You start really pressing in with your pen, and then you don't realize you haven't like tried to stretch your hands the other direction. And then also just resting your hands for a little bit and little intervals will be good, because like you'd be surprised at what that'll do when you're working a lot every day.
Just resting your hands, so you just kind of stop drawing, basically.
Yeah, or for me, I'll do something that's like bigger actions, I guess. Like I'll go wash the dishes, or I'll make something to eat, or like just stand up and shake my hands around a little bit. But
yeah,
awesome, good stuff. I pop my hands a lot. I pop my knuckles a lot, so I'll stretch my hands, and I don't know if that helps, but I don't get too much pain in my hands. Every now and then I'll get pain in my thumb, the thumb muscle. And it just seems to go away after a couple days. But Yeah.
I know. Have y'all? Kazu's talked about it. The way he holds a pencil. Have you seen how he holds it? It's like really weird and janky looking.
No.
Like he basically. Well, like he holds it essentially like this. Like I don't know if that's visible, but
No.
but like his wife. He's talked about like how he taught himself to draw like this, and it basically forces him to use his whole wrist and his whole arm. And I guess like his wife was talking about how she's never heard him complain of wrist pain. So it's one of these things I'm like, I wonder if I should learn how to do this.
Interesting.
I was going to say, it's like, if you're drawing, you should be using a full range of motion throughout your whole entire arm. It shouldn't just be your wrist.
Right.
Yeah, that's
back
true.
and forth.
Yeah.
You should also be using your elbow and your shoulder. So it kind of balances itself out.
Yep. And the wrist brace will help do that too, because it locks up where you can't bend the wrist, so you are sort of forced to move your whole arm. You can just buy like a wrist brace at like, Walmart or something in the kind of pharmacy area.
I don't really use my whole arm. That's one thing I've never naturally done. I would have to really concentrate to do that.
Has anybody ever made you do like a giant canvas painting where you have to stand back?
I did one airbrush type thing when I was younger on a wall, and so yeah, but that's it. Everything else has always been kind of smaller the better for me.
I had in college a teacher that just was like, you're not allowed to use anything smaller than like a 4-inch brush. So I have this giant 4-inch brush, and I'm using like I think it was 5 feet by 10 feet on a canvas. It was this huge thing.
Nice.
You had to stand back, and you had to use your whole entire arm and stuff and whatnot. And that taught me how to really get comfortable to using your shoulder and whatnot. And as weird as that sounds, like use your shoulder to you use this device at the end of your hand. The accuracy.
Yeah.
But I've also never had issues with my wrists. So
yeah.
When I was working on Adamsville too, because y'all may or may not know, but like I have a day job on top of trying to do this stuff. And so like I think trying to ink 2 to 3 pages a day on top of having a day job and hitting the end stretch. And I never had experienced wrist pain until then. And it was just like, oh my God, like, man, it was excruciating trying to punch through all that. And it was hard because like I couldn't slow down because of the deadline stuff that was coming. And so that's where the wrist brace had to come in. And it didn't get rid of everything, but it certainly made it more bearable. Most of it's because I'll grip the pencil really tight still. And then that was causing tension throughout my wrist. And so like learning, like, you don't have to hold it that hard. It's not going anywhere. Just settle down. It'll be okay, guys.
And stress is a big factor for me. If I start like having a deadline, then I'm like, gotta hold this tighter, and then that's when it hurts more.
That's so true for me too, actually, now that you mention that. If I'm stressing out about things, then everything breaks down. My body is just shot. I get headaches, eyes hurt. Everything hurts. I'm tired. So yeah, stress is a big factor in it.
So don't be stressed.
There's some good questions in the chat.
Oh, let's throw some more up. What did I miss?
Question: headed out to grab a cheeseburger. Want one? Yeah, actually.
Well,
it's only for Jason.
Please and thank you.
Should I say yes?
You're gonna get a bag in the mail a week from now. It's just
actually no thanks, Dom. I appreciate it. I'm gonna go home and cook a steak. So I'm going big time. Let's see. Here's another question. I see a lot of comic artists seem to avoid publishing graphic novels through Kindle. What are the drawbacks? Ooh. I don't know.
Probably because they don't know how to do it.
I like it. Yeah, I like the book. So I'm more about having the book, and the digital is all kind of secondary, so it doesn't really matter to me as much.
Does Kindle have some sort of deal you have to do that's like really turns off comic artists or something?
I don't think so. I do think it's a bit of a knowledge gap. There's a program you kind of have to get familiar with on how to build the comic out. Yeah, but it's really not that difficult. I started going down the path of learning it at the same time Webtoons contacted me, so I sort of stopped because I lost all those rights anyway. But yeah, there's a program that they have that will basically do it for you. So it's probably more of just people don't know how to do it or haven't gotten familiar with the program. But
yeah,
nothing wrong with
one of my clients has posted the stuff that I've done for them on Kindle, but I've never done it myself.
Us artists are lazy by nature, so
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, as tablets get better though, like I read a lot of my comics digitally now through like the Hoopla app and stuff, and they're essentially Kindle books. And you can read them just as well as you like. If your goal is just to read, I think it's becoming a bigger and bigger thing. But if I really love something, I want to own that physical copy because the artwork I think just looks better. It's not even, like I was reading the Harrow County comics on Hoopla, and then I found out there was a library edition that was bigger, and I was like, done with that. I just bought the giant library editions that are oversized and they can really look at his artwork, So I think it's becoming a bigger thing as the technology gets easier.
Also, I mean, it takes, like you're saying, though, it takes time, it takes effort. So what do you want to focus on?
Especially if it's already digital on your website, right? It's like, just go read it on the website.
Yeah.
Also, if there's Kindle and there's Nook, right? Nook is Amazon, right?
No, Kindle's Amazon.
Kindle is Amazon. Okay, so.
But let's be honest, there's only Kindle.
Yeah, there really is. My wife has a Nook, and there's like a million of these different tablets, now. So it's like trying to figure out what is the best one, like if you're going to invest that time, which one will pay out the best. So I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just too many different factors in formatting it, and it's just like, how much time do I need to spend redoing this again for another platform that might get 2 sales?
Yep.
Oops.
Well, and some of those kind of tablets actually have even gone out. So
yeah.
You want me to read the next question?
Oh,
since you're drawing, I'll read. I'm hanging out. That's all right. I'll probably have to leave somewhat shortly just to get back onto some of this other stuff. But how do you develop personal guts? Or this is from Dan Raz, I'm supposed. How do you develop personal guts, or how to stop loathing your own work and to cherish it and to be a parent to it, own it, protect it from criticism to some that comes naturally?
I think the important thing is to detach yourself from it, is because and people I think just get too much harbored into like, oh, I created this thing, it's my baby. But the thing is that now that you're done with it, the next thing that you should be focusing on, you shouldn't be focused on the thing you just made. You should focus on the thing you're gonna make next.
Right.
So that thing no longer becomes your baby. It just becomes a stepping stone onto the bigger, better thing that's going to be the next thing. And if you think of it that way, then you're never, even with criticism, you don't have to protect it from criticism, because you're like, well, yeah, that was what I did then, and now I'm going to get better and keep getting better and keep getting better. And that's something you should focus on, not so much because if you focus on trying to harbor this one thing, your growth is going to get squashed really quickly, because you're going to take everything personally. You're going to have a lot of doubt and whatnot. So it's actually better to look at everything as like, I did my best with this thing. It's time to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it. I could, if you don't agree with me, that's perfectly fine. But that's what's gotten me through doing this stuff.
I'm really mixed on the whole thing, because there's a part of me that wants to know what people have to say about it and wants to hear that criticism, because I think it helps me get better.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a part where eventually it just becomes a discouraging thing, and I have to sort of tune it out. And like, it was one thing that like was really a bummer when Adamsville came out on Webtoons. Like, I was so excited to like read comments and stuff. And most of the first few updates of comments were people criticizing my art, criticizing the way I was drawing things. And it was really a bummer. It was like you were waiting for this thing, and suddenly all these thousands of people were reading your book, and they were being pretty harsh.
Mm-hmm.
And especially since it was art that I had finished 2-3 years ago, and I knew I wasn't drawing like that anymore. And so I kind of had to say, yeah, like those were things I improved on. But I don't know. It's one, I don't think people care as much as we think they do. Or like, no one's really, I think, that worked up about what we're doing. But and two, I just have to learn to like I think it's like eventually when it stops being helpful, I just have to avoid it.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer, because I want to hear that,
I think it's natural to want feedback. I think that's part of being an artist. Like, I haven't had a group really besides like my husband to talk to about the stuff that I've been doing, especially with writing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really hard to be like, I'm writing all this stuff, but I have no one to bounce off of with it.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to have the right people to talk to, or like, you can share it to a whole lot of people, and whatever they say, that doesn't really matter because it doesn't affect you really. But it is good to have those people who can really say like, yes, this is good, or like, this could be better, or, to help you improve and to encourage you to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be constructive, though.
Yes.
You can't, those people that are like, yo, your art is bad, and they don't say anything like on how to improve it or something. They're just like, you jack. You could just tune those people out, because it's just like, it's like, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
When I was publishing Remind Online, there was a great community of people that were following it, and given advice and opinions, and sometimes I would take the advice, and people would ask me, how do you know that how do you know when to follow a comment or a criticism? And what kind of really helped me resolve that issue is, if people want the same thing I want with my book, which is for it to be really amazing, and they're following it, and they're into it, and they're interested in it, and they want the same kind of end result, or the same kind of, they're into it with the same message or agenda, then it's like usually their advice is pretty solid, and a lot of it's just a gut feeling that they have. They may not be editors or anything, but as long as they're pulling for the same results that I am, then they're pushing for the same results. They want the same thing, the same end product I do, then I can usually trust at least their hunches, a little bit. And if there's enough people that have that hunch that something's unclear or whatever, then usually it means, okay, I'm being unclear with this.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of a good piece of advice in general when receiving feedback and giving it, is to be careful that what you're implying isn't, this is how I would do it, as much as like, what are you going for? Okay, that wasn't effective then, that's not what I took out of it. And so, I've had to learn that even when I'm offering up criticism to my friends or whatever, is to not launch into, if Michael was making this book, what would he do? As much as like, all right, stopping and asking those questions, because the person receiving that feedback may really latch onto that and then start to make something that they never really intended, and then it becomes, so it's kind of a nuanced thing, but it is helpful.
I agree.
Like talking about Steven as a feedback partner, Steven and I couldn't be more interested in creating different kinds of content. He is not interested in creating the sorts of things I create. And so we've had to learn to like talk through that, you know, and it's like, he's like, well, this is what I would do. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not you, or I don't think of it that way. I think about it this way. And like learning how to, like, he and I've had to learn how to have that conversation, that back and forth of how to work through those ideas together. And sometimes and part of it is like me being cognizant of like when that's happening, when someone's giving me feedback, like you were saying, Jason, is like, okay, that's not what I'm going for, so I can ignore that feedback, you know. That's just not the story I'm telling, so I'm not going to pretend I am, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but the harder stuff for me tends to be like people, like the sort of social commentary stuff that gets annoying, where it's like, because my value system is different than their value system or something, and that makes them criticize my work. And I'm just like, and I do the same thing too. So like, I know we all do it, but you see that feedback and it kind of sucks because you probably didn't intend it the way they're taking it. And you're like, what do I do with that? You know?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a jerk. Just, it happened. That thing happened.
If anyone's watching and you have a Twitch account, then head on over to Twitch and watch my stream, because I need to get like 3 people watching it at the same time to unlock some special magic abilities or something. They have all these, like,
on Twitch.
Yeah, they have these milestones or something. Like, you have streamed for 3 hours. Congratulations. You know, you need more than 2 people commenting at the same time. So
looks like you got 5 viewers right now.
5 viewers. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so
That might be me.
So you're watching on Twitch at the same time?
Yeah, just to give you some more views.
There's Doomsbury. Welcome again, Doomsbury. Here's another question. Oh, and you guys, I just got a membership ability on my YouTube channel. They finally gave me that ability. So you can become a member. You become part of the Brew Crew, as they call it, as I call it.
It's 100% worth it.
And Zach is my first subscriber or member, so he gets a present.
I get a pat on the head.
Pat on the head. I'll keep bringing him on the stream.
Yay! Wait, was that my regular? Did I reach regular by doing that?
Well, I keep sending you an invite, so yeah, you're regular in my opinion. Woohoo! The people who keep showing up, you know, I'll keep sending them invites. There's some people that I keep sending invites and they don't show up, so I'm like, oh, maybe they're not into it right now. And then I forget to invite them next time. No worries. There's no rhyme or reason to it other than just me knowing I'm going on. Like, oh, I need to find someone to stream with me. Who? Help. Like panic emails. Austin.
Those artist life problems, right?
Yeah.
Oh. So did you see that you crossed 25,000 on your Kickstarter?
Nice. Oh yeah, let me just do some marketing real quick. Welcome, you guys. If anyone wants to learn to draw, go to Cognitive Drawing. We just crossed 25,000, which means I have to commit to drawing some of the female book now. So that's a stretch goal.
Like the
5 pages. No, 10 pages, I promised. So now I need to figure out a stretch goal. I think we're going to do 30,000 and another 10 pages of the female book. Right, Austin? That's kind of what we're thinking.
I'm actually working on the banner right now, or the little graphic.
Nice.
So look
Oh,
at that, 730 people. That's insane.
You're probably going to start getting a lot more people backing now. They're like, oh, a female version?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to. If I actually just made some pages and started posting that, then that would get a lot of probably more response than what I have already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people have been asking about that one for a long time. I'm like, I'll get to it.
Just take that Final Fantasy sketch you did and just take her and then just do like an outline.
Yeah. Yeah. Need to figure out how to get some more tentacles in here.
Always more tentacles.
I just like that one that's in the back that's just doing a corkscrew. It's just like, it's back there going, whoa!
I don't want to spoil it, and I've had people who have heard my advice and then disagreed upon subsequent viewing, but good nautical horror, man. That movie Underwater. It's good stuff.
Which movie?
It sort of looks like an Aliens-ish, like rip-off kind of movie, but Kristen Stewart's in it. Came out in January. But I don't want to spoil what makes it pretty epic because the ending really swings for the fences, and it's a good. I like it. I like it a lot.
What's it called? I don't know.
Underwater.
Underwater.
Underwater. Yeah. It's PG-13 too, so it's not super intense. We let our kids watch it, and aside from some language, it's not. It's a lot more tame than a lot of other stuff can tend to be, but it's scary in like the right ways. You know what I mean? Like it's more suspenseful and directed in that way. It's not graphic and gory as a way of getting cheap scares.
Yeah.
And like by comparison, like I think about like even like the movie Alien. Should we even really consider Alien rated R at this point? Like by today's standards?
Yeah, probably not. Huh?
Other than language, it's pretty tame. It's a pretty tame movie.
I was thinking like The Matrix. Why is that rated R? I never understood that.
I think it's language too.
Well, no, the language is very minimal though, compared to a lot of PG-13 and other stuff. I think the big thing is like its ideas and its scope was that like they were like it's too much for a 13-year-old to handle. Yet I was like, not when I saw that, and I loved it. So
I don't know. Rating's been kind of weird for me because I grew up in Canada, and so the rating system's different. So like Matrix wasn't rated R. We watched a bunch of movies that are like rated R in the U.S. in high school. Like the what was that one with Mel Gibson, The Patriot?
Oh, that's such a...
So like, we watched that in like history class.
You're learning about the people underneath you.
We've started for whatever reason, because of the quarantine, we've been okay with like letting our kids watch movies we used to have an issue with. I don't know why this happened, but like I think it's just like my wife and I are just like, we don't want to watch a kid movie. We want to watch this movie. Is it too terrible to let the kids watch?
Yeah.
All right, it's not. Let's let them watch it.
Yeah.
And so like we showed them Pacific Rim last weekend, and like my son was like, "Oh my god,
that's so cool!" Yeah.
Like because a 5-year-old was like blowing his brain. He's just like, "What is happening? This is the coolest thing ever." And then we watched the sequel, and the sequel is hot garbage. So don't watch that.
I didn't see the sequel yet.
It's just skip it.
Yeah,
it doesn't exist. Or if you watch it the way you do like the Jaws sequels. Like they're there, but they're not like really there.
Watch it for the shark. You don't watch it for anything else.
Right. You're not considering it as canon. You're like, we just want to go back into this place. But I think if you're a little kid, it's probably still pretty cool. But as an adult, I was like, what is happening? like here's the thing that actually like happens. Like you get the sense in the first one that like when the robots are fighting in the city, that there's at least some attempt to not like destroy the city. In this one, like there's a scene where one of the Jaegers like pops these two swords out and he's running down a street with the blade sticking out, so it's just slicing these buildings in half as he's charging this this kaiju. I'm like, what is happening? It's like
those buildings.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Are we sure no one's in these places? Like, it's just, it was like, and they did it so many times. I was like, I can't with this stupid movie at this point. Guillermo del Toro seemed to like try to get, like, as preposterous as it was, it felt like there was an attempt to make it feel legitimate. You know what I mean? At least something in it. And this one just feels like it went right out the window. It's just like Power Rangers all the way.
I was going to say Power Rangers sounding.
Yeah, it's not very good. It's disappointing because I like the first one a lot. As a piece of like just insane, silly fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the whole entire, I don't know if anybody cares about spoilers about the brain thing, the guy in the brain thing. That was just like, at that point, I was just like, yeah.
Well, see, like,
just can't anymore.
I was talking to a buddy about that, and I was like, I feel like there's good ideas in the movie, but the way they're executed is so weird. Like, that part was so weird. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad idea, but like, no, but it's when you're watching, you're like, what is happening right now?
You just feel so gross watching it.
Yes, it's just this sort of like like, for those of you who it's almost very sexualized in some weird way. It's just very odd with one of the characters. But yeah, so there's that one.
Yeah.
But my daughter, who's like 8, we let her watch Underwater because I was like, yeah, it's not too bad. We can let her watch it. And I thought she would be really wigged out by it, but instead, she like every day, like, can we watch that again? That was really awesome.
Can't watch underwater movies.
You can't watch underwater movies?
Mm-mm. That's like my one fear is I can't go swim in open water because I get like anxiety of dropping because I have no idea what's underneath me.
I get that.
So
yeah, that is a weird feeling when you're in deep water that you just can't see the bottom.
Did I tell you that story about what happened to me last year, Jason, with the kayak and having to get rescued by lifeguards and all that stuff?
Oh no, I don't remember anything like that.
Yeah, I bought a kayak last year to go fishing in, and I took the family out to a beach, and we were like, hey, let's, this would be a good. We were at a beach where there really wasn't a lot of waves. It was sort of like an inlet, and I was like, hey, we could kind of practice here and paddle around, and it's pretty safe, and it won't be a problem. And so we were there doing it. Everything was fine, and then my daughter wanted to get in it and give it a shot. And so she's kind of paddling around, and I had no intention to like really let her go off. I was just trying to help her get her bearings, and she couldn't. I guess she was having a hard time controlling it, and it seemed to me like it was her that was driving this lack of control, rather than the water or the environment. And I guess the wind started pushing the kayak out, and I was like yelling at her, I'm like, you need to come back to me, and she was not doing it. And so eventually I was like, you know what, I got to go out there and get her. So I kind of swam out to get her, but I didn't realize that the water is what was pulling her. So like, I'm trying to get closer and she's just getting further. And so I'm yelling at her, like, don't go, just stay put, it'll be okay. And then I try to step down, and I can't touch the bottom. And I guess I had swam past the sandbar, and I'm trying to turn around to go back in the shore, and I don't know if I'm caught in a current or something, but every time I turned around, I ended up facing deeper water. and so like my daughter's drifting off, doesn't have control of this kayak. I can't get back in. And so finally I just have to just lay on my back and start screaming for help. And so thankfully, some people there with like a paddle board came and got me. And it was the most terrified I've ever been in my life. Because I'm terrified for her. I'm legitimately worried I might drown because I was running out of energy. Oh, yeah. And I looked behind me and finally saw lifeguards coming up, and I just was like, oh God, just stay up for like another minute and they'll be here,
Wow.
It was I didn't talk about it much with people because I was trying to block it out, but
yeah. Oh wow.
But we're a year later now, so I'm a little more clear-headed on it. But it was a learning experience about not being too careful or not being too comfortable in your environment.
Yeah. Dang.
So yes, I sympathize with your fears.
Yay.
That said, I still love the ocean. I still love going to it. To me, it taught me that I need to take different precautions. Like there was things I could have done in that moment, and this never would have happened, Like, so next time we go, it's like I bought a rope that I could rope off the kayak, and if she kind of gets away from me, I can pull her back in, or even make sure I'm wearing a life vest in addition to her, so that if I do have to go get her, I'm not going to get in trouble. These sorts of things. So it was totally avoidable, and I'm just thankful I didn't have to pay a big price for it,
Yeah. Man.
Unfortunately, a good learning experience. So I tell the story, even though it makes me look bad, because hopefully it helps some of you stay safe. So don't be like me.
Oh, let's put one of you guys on the screen. Bling.
Oh no!
No?
Oh no!
You sure?
I'm like in this rough phase where I'm fighting the image.
Yeah.
So I'm like, don't watch me fight the image.
I've been fighting this one for a little while.
It's like actually been the one way I've stayed sane through this quarantine has been going fishing every weekend. Getting out on the kayak and going fishing, because it's just like, I got to get out of this house. I can't. I got to do something outside where I'm not going to be in front of a lot of people.
Mm.
How have you guys been handling it? Y'all okay? Everyone doing all right? Staying sane?
Yeah, it hasn't changed too much for me. It's affected my wife more because she has to do the homeschooling, and she teaches classes, and so she has to make online videos instead of going and for exercise, like so she has exercise students, she has Title I assistant type students, and so it's just a lot of work for her to do it all.
Yeah.
And then try to be a homeschooling mom too, out of the blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it hasn't changed much of anything for us because we were already homeschooling and I already worked from home.
Yeah.
And all it's really done is made it to like at the end of the day we're used to going out, but can't go do anything. So we're just like, well, crap.
Yeah.
Luckily because we just moved to Texas for my PhD program. My wife was feeling like she felt like really strongly like she should try homeschooling our 8-year-old, and so it's actually been perfect because we were prepared for this.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of a blessing that we didn't realize maybe that was part of the reason.
Yeah, that's nice.
Whenever someone used to pick on us about homeschooling and for whatever reason feeling like that might be easier or something, like, yeah, good luck with that. Not as easy as you might think. So Jason, when we were talking about agents and stuff last time, are you still looking into that, or is that on the burner for now?
Yeah, I really do want to try to go that route. It's just, I started getting sidetracked with, I'm going to work on Phobos pages and live stream every day. And so it's kind of taken up all of my time while this campaign is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I think once the campaign's done and I know kind of how much money I'll have for the rest of the year, then I can kind of figure out how much time, how to plan and devote the right amount of time to it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because
It is a process.
yeah, I know it's going to take a while, and you know, it may work, it may not work.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want it to. I'm not putting it out as the priority for me right now. You know, the priority is campaign and then getting Phobos ready to have a campaign later. You know,
Mm-hmm.
cover all those bases first, then I think I'll have enough headspace to think in that way of, okay, what does an agent want, and how do I kind of approach them, and let's go through all this list of agents and see who's the right fit and stuff. And I've kind of narrowed it down to ones that I like. I have like 10, a list of 10 that I'm thinking about contacting.
That's a good list.
You know,
That's enough to see where things are.
yeah. And if no one responds, then that'll be pretty clear. But you know, I'm sure someone will respond. So
You're right. Well, definitely, yeah. I was pretty discouraged after that first 5 that I submitted it to. It didn't really go anywhere, and I was like, I'm going to do this one more time. I'm going to sit down and spend a Saturday afternoon doing it, and then it was like suddenly the floodgates opened.
Yeah.
Are you talking I'm sorry, I've never actually done an agent for art or anything like that. How does that even work?
Well, Michael, you want to answer that one?
Sure. I mean, an agent's particularly useful if you're trying to get traditionally published, as that's sort of the gatekeeper into the editors at these places. And so, you basically just have to treat your comic like it's like any other sort of novel or something you're pursuing. So, I guess it would depend. I don't really know what the process looks like for adult graphic novels, because I don't think agents are as prevalent in the adult comic scene, publisher-wise. But within the children's publishing scene, the only people really publishing children's books tends to be major publishers like Scholastic, Penguin, Macmillan, First Second, those sorts of places. And so to get through them, you have to get a literary agent, basically. And so, yeah, it was just, you kind of put together a query letter, like, hey, here's what my book is, and there's plenty of stuff online that can teach you how to do all that. And then you put together a pitch or proposal and submit it off to them and see if any of them want it. And then they will take that, offer any sort of suggestions on how to improve it or clarify things, and then they'll send it out to all the editors for you. So it's just follows like the normal publishing process at that point. The one big difference I think with comics is that we tend to sell books on proposal rather than finished product. Like if there's one thing I sort of learned was that it's much harder for a publisher to agree to buy something that's done, because they feel like at that point the likelihood of getting you to make changes if necessary is probably harder because of how much the artwork takes time to complete. So it seems like within graphic novels they really would rather you send a proposal than a finished book. The finished book serves its purpose too, but
that's what was weird for me, because I wanted to just get the book done and then say, okay, who's interested in publishing this? But after talking to Kazu a little bit the last month, he was like, it's not as, you don't want the agent or the publisher to have to catch up with you. Like, send out, you can show them your work. And this is what kind of convinced me more. You can show them what you've done. Say, I'm experienced. I can deliver. I have a new idea, and I want to see if you can be the partner with me on this idea, and give them a paragraph idea, and see if you have any bites from that, because you have the work to show that you can do the work.
Exactly.
And so it's just a matter of getting that idea to connect with someone, and then you're both on the starting line.
Right.
And
I agree.
I thought that was kind of interesting. So I'm gonna try that with my next book that I've been thinking about and working on slowly. The
way I sort of eventually had to start looking at it was like, I would never start a project that I didn't intend to finish anyway.
Yeah.
And so I looked at it like, well, if I get a publisher in the beginning process, that just takes out a big part of the consideration I have to do down the line. Like, now I have a publishing partner and they're going to pay me money. And I've figured out a huge part of the process, you know?
Yeah.
But if it ends up falling through, well, then I'll just go make the book, you know, and then I'll do it the other way. And so it really didn't matter to me whether I approached them early or not. I just wanted to know what was going to give me the stronger likelihood of actually getting picked up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was like the book's going to get made one way or the other.
Yeah. And I feel like the next story that I have is a perfect one to try this with, because I wanted to go a little not younger. I wanted to. I'm gonna probably keep my same style, you know, because it's just what I naturally draw in.
Mhm.
But I didn't have anything designed for the characters, and it was always odd to me that I'd write a story without knowing at all what the characters are going to look like. So it gives me that opportunity to just start with the idea, pitch the idea, and get that kind of see if that can be sold, and then work at developing it after that. You know, and so we'll see.
Oh, excited to see whatever it is you come up with.
Yeah, I might have mentioned it to you once, a long time ago.
Nothing particularly comes to mind, like from a story idea perspective. So
Okay.
you have to tell me at a different time.
Yeah. I purposely kind of kept it on the down low.
I think I was chatting with my editor about this last week. We were talking about the draft that I submitted to him, and I was telling him how different this process has been having an editor, because I really feel like the book is so much different as a result of his involvement. But you know, he was sort of saying how important it is to him, or an observation that we all, I think, kind of have made, that the writing seems to take a back seat in comics in favor of the art. And we're like, well, you know, the art's great, no one really cares. And we were sort of pontificating about like how this is overlooked. The writing process is overlooked in the comics. And I'm really grateful for having him there on that angle, because I think I would have put out a bad book if he wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And if I didn't have good feedback from other people, like, it would have been perfectly fine. It would have been a readable book. If people, you know, it would have been nothing too crazy, but I hope that I'm creating something that'll be a great book. And that's, I think a lot of it was his prodding.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have your different versions of editors and different versions of agents. Some are really going to push that stuff. Some are going to kind of be like, hey, I like what you did, just go do it. And
Yeah.
I actively chose my editor because in the first meeting I had with him, he was like, here's my ideas for how to make it better. And I was like, yeah, those all sound good. You know, that sounds like you have an idea for how we make this better than what it is. So let's work together.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's the thing, is like the whole reason to go with, if you're going to go with the traditional system and stuff, is to get that help.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not getting that help, then it seems like, what's the point? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I know I've heard a lot of different people talk about, you know, problems now with their, you know, marketing and stuff, how they kind of look for people a lot more, like some companies, because, oh, well, they have a fan base or whatever. But yeah, if you can get a group that really still is trying to make your life, you know, make something better with you, then that seems like that's the golden standard or whatever you want to hit, if you can. Right.
I mean, I'm sure this is something that everyone thinks. I'm sure these editors do generally think through that, but I think it's more of a, honestly, I'm more concerned with like, do comic book artists, graphic novelists in particular, how much do we really care about story, or how much, as opposed to caring about the art? And I think that by and large, we're just so anxious to draw that we don't stop and go like, hey, there's this whole other half of the process that really, really matters, you know? And like hearing Kazu talk about like how he'll draw a sequence 10, 11 times, just trying to figure it out. I don't think a lot of us are willing to do that.
Yeah.
It's been
Well-
painful to me, like throwing out, like I threw out probably 50 or 60 pages of sequences and I'm probably getting ready to throw out another 10 that I redrew and just go like, this isn't the right moment. Let's redo it, you know?
Mhm. So I'm curious, Michael, did you, like, early on when you were getting into comics and stuff like that more seriously, did you read Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud? Because that book was the one that did that to me. Because he has like that whole section where he talks about like the writer versus the artist and like how much more powerful it'd be if you actually got those things to mesh more. And that kind of, like, I read that when I was a young teenager, and that just really started making me think about what comics could be.
Right. Yeah, I think for me it was like as a kid I grew up and I was just really into the art, and so I focused on getting better at the art and not so much like the writing was like just a gateway to getting to the art. And then as I started becoming more interested in the idea of graphic novels, I sort of realized that I didn't know how to tell a story. Like maybe on an instinctual level I did, but if you asked me to like explain the anatomy of the way a story worked, I would really struggle over that. And I sort of realized, like, well, if I'm a graphic novelist, I'm a storyteller first. Like, the story should come first. And then the art will fill that gap in. And so, like, it feels like the last 10 years or so of my life has been really trying to catch myself up on 20 years of being an artist that I neglected on being a writer. And I'm trying to get my writing ability up to the level of confidence that I feel in my artistic ability. And I know my art needs a lot of improvement too, but like how much greater the disparity then on the downward scale. And so I'm really enamored with storytelling right now, like just understanding how it works, what makes it good, what makes a good story better, you know, what makes something really stay with you, you know. I'm really enamored by thinking through that as I'm writing and trying to learn to be a better writer.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all have any thoughts on that, but it it sits in my brain a lot. I think about this a ton.
Yeah. I think that's been a big part for me too, because like growing up as a kid, I mean, I was into the art, but I actually had a period where I'm the oldest, but I had 3 older cousins that were male that were like my big brothers, and they all read comics. You know, I didn't read Spider-Man and stuff like that. I read like Peanuts and Garfield and Asterix and Tintin, the stuff my elementary school library had. So they were the ones who were all into drawing, and I was like, oh, I'm horrible at this. I think I'm just going to learn to be a writer because I want to tell stories, but I don't know how to draw like them.
Do the drawing, yeah.
And then ironically, I was the first one to study art in school of all of us. But like I've always cared about the story part. So that's the thing I think that I'm still trying to learn, like trying to get better at. So that's why recently I've been trying to do some shorter stuff because I just want more practice. I want to figure out like how do I write a scene? How do I write, you know, a small little, you know, 20-page comic, and like how do I make sure it actually has a good beginning, middle, and end, and that you get to the end and the, you know, the character goes through some kind of change that makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
So,
well, what I'm learning as far as it comes to writing comics, well, I guess it depends on what the format is. Like if you're writing an issue style format, this probably doesn't apply. But within the graphic novel space, what I'm sort of learning is that it is more thinking about learning how to write like a movie. It's more akin to learning how to write a movie, or even further, like a short story. Because essentially a graphic novel is a short story. It's not that long, you know.
no.
It's not that involved. And what I'm learning a lot now is like how to cut out everything that's not essential. Not because it isn't fun to go down a rabbit hole to some degree, but I find like my stories balloon out a lot anyway and get really big. And so like learning to go like, well, why is that moment this way? Like for instance, in my book right now, there's a sequence where the kids are discussing monster weaknesses that was in the beginning of the book. And as I was rewriting it, I was like, there's a sequence that happens in the middle where the kids are talking about anime, and like one of the kids is discovering anime for the first time, and he's so excited about anime, and because the story takes place in 1993, it was like, that feels like a very timely moment, like I remember that happening to me. But on a certain point, I was just like, is this contributing to the story though? Or is there a way to say this so that it's shorter? And so I ended up sort of picking up this conversation about monster weaknesses and moving it to the middle of the story where the anime conversation was happening. Because one, that conversation is now prevalent here as opposed to the beginning. And this other conversation didn't contribute to the greater theme or narrative of the story. And this is the sort of stuff, like, I think 5 years ago, I would have just glossed over and kept moving on. But now I'm trying to really go like, no, like, be better, man. Like, you don't settle for, what is good enough. Try to make this as good as possible. But at some point you have to sort of shut it down and say, like, I'm only as good as where I am now. And so at a certain point, there's a lot to be gained in just finishing what you're starting, I will never be as good as I hope to one day become. And I do have to sort of go like, okay, this is where I'm at now. This is my skill level now. Let me finish this. And then I'll try again the next time to be better. And that's sort of the place I'm getting at with the sleepover. It's like, I know it could use more, but I feel like I've beaten it to the ground. And it's working on a fundamental level. So let's finish it and move on and try again next time if there's something I'm not sure about, but I don't know. I really have enjoyed Brian McDonald's podcast series, I Am a Storyteller. If you guys haven't checked that out, or You Are a Storyteller, if you guys haven't listened to that, it's really worth listening to.
I really like his books.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to check that out.
It's on YouTube. It's fantastic. I mean, a lot of it's him rehashing a lot of the stuff in the books, but he just expounds on it more in conversation. So if you guys are looking for a good story, a good thing to listen to on story, I would definitely recommend that. But then you start to get into analysis paralysis. There's always, there's always a balance here. I think just the part of my brain right now is trying to fight the desire not to just say something is good enough and move on and say like, well, can it be better? Let's make it better. Let's fix it. Hopefully that works out in the end. We'll see see how it goes.
I don't know where I'm at with that. I guess I'm kind of somewhere in the middle, because in like DreamWorks and stuff, it was just analysis too much and redoing stuff because it just has to be better and better and better. And then I work on my stuff and I'm like, I think I just think of through so much that I'm like, the first thing I do with it is I love it. And I'm not worried about what everyone else is thinking as much.
Yeah.
Because it's so frustrating to just redo things. Like if I drew this scene, or this scene here, and I'm like, it's great, but I think that should have been a shark. Let me try that now. It's like, oh, we're gonna talk about killing all the joy in making this thing.
Well, but
it doesn't matter,
But you know what? Like, this has been maybe the thing I've learned the most over the last year of writing is that, and it is something that I've heard Kazu talk a lot about, is like, if you can do a rough version of the whole thing as fast as possible, so that you can have those sort of analysis conversations, like, is this right? Does that work? Is that the best version? It's much easier to let that go than if you finish a whole page like that. That page is gorgeous. Like, you don't want to redo that,
Yeah,
but if you spend 10 minutes roughing something out and throwing some dialogue in, you're like, I generally know what I'm going for. And then later you can read it and then read it in its full context and go like, yeah, that doesn't work. Like, I spent 3 months writing an entire middle section of my book, and I just sort of kept plowing along. And when I sent it off and I was like, nope, I feel like this is as good. Like, in the back of my head, I knew something wasn't really clicking, but I spent a lot of time developing that up, like developing the roughs more. And then all of a sudden the feedback came back in, and now we've ended up cutting that entire thing. Yeah. And the learning experience was go like, don't spend so much time on the art yet. Like draw, you know, because you're right. I mean, once that art is committed, your art is probably so strong that it will overpower maybe particular concerns people have with the story.
Yeah.
But if you can find a moment that's better because you spent less time on it, it's easier to be willing to cut something and let it go. You know.
Yeah.
I think I am going to try to do that with the next story, the one that I'm going to try to pitch to an agent. It is just try to actually write the whole script for the whole thing first. I don't know how much drawing I'm going to do, because once I start thumbnailing, I'm committing. You know, I guess I don't know. It just might be because I'm confident enough with my. Once I see it in thumbnails, I'm like, fine. You know, like I'm good.
Right.
You know, maybe it's because of doing storyboards for so long, or I don't know. Maybe it's just maybe I'm not at the same place as Kazu with that.
I don't. This was kind of different, and I don't know how if this would work for everyone's styles. But something I found really interesting. There's a artist who does comics for like younger kids named Jess Smiley, and he has a really simplistic style. Like it's a very, very kind of, what would you call it? I don't know. Like it looks a lot more like children's art kind of thing. But he ended up deciding that he went through and he did like a really, really rough version of this comic he wanted to do. And then he just asked his follower, like his email list, if they would like read it, proofread it. It was really interesting. He just did it again with his second book. And this one, he's trying to do kind of like a choose your own adventure type story as well. And it's very interesting. Like his style, it's really easy because his sketching of everything doesn't look crazy different than the final. Like it looks a little, but it's definitely like his sketch version looks a lot more intelligible than say my thumbnails. And so like it was something that someone could actually read and kind of get a general sense of what was going on. So I thought that was kind of an interesting take. I don't know how well that would work for a lot of different styles of artists, but it was kind of cool.
Yeah, like I was listening to Kazu talk about it on the I listen to him a lot because I think he thinks about things, I think, the way I tend to think about things. And I end up gleaning a lot from him. And it's not to say his way's right or Jason's way is right, or my Jason, like there's nothing necessarily wrong with your process. Like if you feel very comfortable there, that's your process. But the like he talks about, like I try to thumbnail it out as quick as possible so that I'm sort of like drawing as fast as you might be reading. And it's just sort of, he's trying to visualize it as quickly as possible. And I have not done that. I want to actually, what I really want to do is write a really good script, like that stands on its own. But what I found is that once I move from the script to the comic, just the pure practical nature of redesigning that or reworking it into a comic, things change, or moments that you thought might play out one way don't work quite as well or whatever. And I'm trying to then learn to go like, I'm going to write a script, and then I'm going to write my next draft will be the rough version. And it was surprising. Like I sent my editor the rough version of my book a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't intend him to read it. It was really chicken scratchy in sections. And I was just like, I want you to see this because I have some questions about like how much more you need me to develop this for you to be able to read it, type of thing. And then he just emails me that email. He's like, hey, I read the whole thing. And I'm like, what? No, you're not supposed to. But it made me kind of realize like, oh, like I'm putting too much effort into this, and he can probably gather a lot more information than I think he can. One, he's probably used to seeing this sort of stuff from authors at this point, like, and being able to decipher it. And so it really did teach me like, hey, I can bust out a really quick draft of this entire book in rough format in like a month or two. And get that really good feedback of sitting down and reading the whole thing in a stretch and like going like, wait, well, does that moment work as well in the beginning as it does in the end? And so on and so forth. It's a little bit harder too if you're working on something like you were doing, Jason, with like something like a Sithra or whatever, where it's almost more like you're creating a TV show as opposed to creating a graphic novel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's like you're creating episodes, and so the thinking's a bit different. Whereas I think like why I'm becoming so honed in on this from a graphic novel perspective is like, you are trying to package this one complete idea, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everything has to be working together. And if something's off, it's going to hurt the book.
Yeah.
And really learning that I can't skimp on this, because it could be the difference between my book becoming something that sits on shelves and resonates, or it means it comes out and no one cares, you know? And it may still come out and no one cares, but I will have done everything in my power to make sure that's not the case, you know?
Yeah.
So it is sort of different. I do think of like, you know, if you're on Webtoons or something, you're creating a TV show, and then you have to really think about, well, how does that look? You know, how do you make that work? And I think it's just a different skill set at that point. But the same principles still can apply. Like, you can just say, okay, I've got a 40-page section I'm getting ready to release. I'm going to run over it with this same process. I'm going to write it out. I'm going to do a very rough version. I'm going to edit that version. I'm going to rebuild it, throw stuff out, go back in on those 30, 40 pages. But the thinking is probably a little bit different than, you know, a 200 to 300 page book or something, as far as the way you're laying out your story.
All right, everybody, I'm going to go take my wife out to lunch real quick. So thank you so much for having me, Jason.
No problem. I'll keep having you if you want to keep coming back.
Yeah, for sure. And see you all later.
All right,
Hey, man.
We'll see you.
Have a good one.
See ya.
I may actually have to go too. My cat is very vocal right now, so I'm not really able to unmute.
No worries.
But it's been really good. I've almost got a page sketched
Good.
and inked.
Nice. That's what we want.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming again.
Yeah, y'all have a good one.
All right.
Nice to virtually meet you.
Yeah, nice to virtually meet you too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. It's a good question in the comments.
Yeah.
I'll probably hang out for this question, then I'm going to have to go too, I think.
Oh, I just looked on the screen and forgot about it again.
It's a good question.
Talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just covering up Austin. He's getting Mike Wazowski from Monsters Incorporated.
I love those kind of gimmicky stories.
I was on TV.
So the question is, hey guys, when you write your own stories, how do you decide what idea is worth the hard work of drawing lots of pages? Well, there's a lot of different. Whoops, what happened there? I think there's a lot of different ways you could look at that. It depends on if you're trying to do what's sellable versus what's enjoyable versus what's educationable. Like, what place are you at is kind of the determining factor for all the hard work, I think.
Man, I don't know. I feel like this is like the hardest thing in the world. Like when you just basically have like every option available to you, and you're like, what do I feel like spending the next 2 years of my life on?
Yeah, hard. Yeah.
And I don't really know that there's a good answer for it, other than eventually something will sort of start building on itself and feel right. And then eventually you'll be like, yeah, that's the one, you know? All I can really do is relay personal experiences of where like that just sort of eventually happens. Like, before the sleepover, I was developing an entire other book, and I was just stumbling over it, and something about it didn't feel ready. And then just like out of nowhere, this idea sort of landed in my lap, and I was like, holy crap, everything about that feels like what I'm trying to go make, what I would like to make next.
Yeah.
But, you know, I do think a lot of it is just spending time in your story notes, your notebook, working on treatments, beating out story ideas, seeing like, is there a good story here? And if there's a good story, just stay with it a little bit longer, and eventually I think it will sort of, you won't be able to stop thinking about it, is what I think. Like, eventually be like, that's the one. Something here is really, really resonating with me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then eventually you just got to commit and get over it and just be like, this is what I'm doing. here's where we're going, you know?
I think that commitment is an important part of it, because I I've been making up story ideas like my entire life. So I have an endless amount of possible ideas I could do. And so like even recently, so I committed to something and decided this is the story I'm going to tell. And so I've been working through, this shorter story that I want to tell. And I've had multiple times where I've had really cool ideas since then. And so I just sit down and I write out everything in my head about it and I move away. Like I got to let go and move on and go back to like what I'm focusing on. Because I think it's, if you want to tell a story, you have to actually do it. I know that's where I struggle with a lot sometimes is, yes, is an idea worth telling? You'll never know the answer to that until you try to tell it.
Right.
You can't let too many things get in the way of finally starting.
Like I'll show you all this. I don't know if either one of you do something similar, but like I start off with like a notebook. Eventually I'm like, this is going to be the idea I want to develop. And then it just sort of becomes like, as I just start developing ideas, I start to get an idea for like, is this working? Am I still excited about it? And then when I just start filling up a notebook like this and rehashing story ideas, I start to think, okay, maybe I'm onto something. And then when I get to like this point, let's see if I can find it. I start doing this sort of thing where I'm laying out beats. Like I'm like, okay, the descending action, rising, like I start figuring all that out. That's when I'm like, all right, this idea is really starting to form. And I start figuring out themes and I'm like, okay, the theme is this and I really like that theme and I want to explore that theme. So, once I get into that stage, I mean, I probably was working on this for, 2 months as the idea was sort of coming to me. And I was like, okay, something seems to be here. And then, eventually I was like, yep, that's it. Let's do it. And I've actually started making my own little notebooks. So like, I realized like those notebooks are too big. So I started making my own little notebooks here. Like this is one that I'm developing for my next book that I'm working on. And it's just like a dot journal. And I'm just sort of starting to fill it up with early ideas. There's not much in here at this point, but yeah, it all starts in a notebook for me. And then I decide whether to keep going or not.
That's actually what I've been doing with this story I'm working on a little bit. I made like a little tiny notebook for my sketch wallet. And I just started writing in like ideas and then like doing beats and stuff as I tried to figure out the major story.
Well,
So
let me show you on screen.
So so I've just been taking notes in this and like here I was playing with like kind of a timeline, thinking about the major beats and stuff. So it's been kind of fun. And it's cool because one of the things with this story that I want to do is there's a webcomic that Cam Kendall introduced me to called Stand Still and Stay Silent, I think is the name. And
I love it.
Yeah, well, it's funny because he let me borrow when I was living in Utah and getting to know him. He let me borrow the actual book, so I read them and I was just loved them. And so then recently I was like, oh, I wonder what happens after those books. So I read like 2 years of like backed up content in like a week. So I've been reading it, but one of the things I love that she does in it is she tells the extra world building stuff as like fun asides. So like she has her story that you're reading, but then there'll be like these cool pages that are just like informational that kind of help you understand the world more. And so this story that I'm telling has a built-in like book that the character has. And so my idea is that as I tell this story, I will just occasionally draw pages from the book with information in it. And as well as one of the things I want to do, because I've seen a couple people do this and I love it, is it's like a, kind of like a guidebook for adventurers or heroes. And she'll have notes in it for her and the other main character. Like they'll just write in it, like additional things that they learned or experienced. Stuff. So my son loves, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the book series Fablehaven.
I read the first couple.
Yeah. So with that, they, a few years ago, they made like a guidebook for the caretakers of the magical creatures. And my son has read through it and loves it. And it has like little notes in it that the main characters wrote and stuff like that. And he just loves the whole thing, to be able to read about all the creatures and get into all these details. besides the stories that we read, like reading the books together as a family and stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's a cool series. It's one I need to dig back into.
Yeah,
I'm so terrible about reading novels, so it's like I just never get through them quick enough.
I try to read to my kids every night, so we're reading it right now with my kids. So the older ones, they're into it. My nearly 3-year-old doesn't care, but the 5-year-old and the 8-year-old, they're getting into it.
That's cool.
Really into it.
I'm real big into the read aloud stuff too, man. It's fun to read with kids. My youngest son is like, his attention span is into the novels and stuff, so I've been reading him Dog Man and Captain Underpants. He seems to be really excited about those. And then and I'm reading this book called The Truth About Martians to my kids, and it's really, my older kids, and it's really good because it's like a fictionalized recounting of some kids dealing with the Roswell incident.
Oh wow!
And as a person who's like a huge Roswell incident buff, like I love that history, that piece of history. It's sort of it's kind of wild to read this story, and it's like all these characters that I know, or people I know, like Mac Brazel and like Ellis Air Force Base and White Sands, and like all these sorts of names and stuff I've heard like popping up, and like telling my kids, I'm like, I don't know if aliens really crashed here, but like those are real names. This is like real stuff. That something did happen there, and don't up to you whether you think it was aliens or not, but I think it might have been. I'm in that camp, but
nice.
But it's a cool book. It's fun, and the author, she writes a lot of books that are kind of play in that vein and enjoy sort of like cryptozoology. And there's a Bigfoot one, and a Loch Ness one, and so it's fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, we started we've always read. My wife started reading picture books to our oldest when he was too young to care. So we've been reading to our kids. But a few years back, I was like, you know what? For Christmas, it'd be really fun to read the Christmas Carol, because I grew up watching the versions of it, right? Like Muppets or like the Disney one. And so I always thought it was a cool, fun story at Christmas time. And I like just like I like your books, I like a little bit of kind of that dark feeling, but in a world that's a little bit more positive, right? Especially when there's like a happy ending to it, like something positive from it.
Yep.
And so I started trying to read it, and it's hilarious because I think we might have finished reading it once in the last 6 years of me trying to read it every year. Doing that just got us into this habit of, and me, I did like musical theater and middle school and high school. And it kind of just brought me back to that again, getting to do the voices and trying to kind of make it fun.
Lost your audio, Austin.
No. Is it back?
What's going on? What happened?
Am I still gone?
Austin disappeared. His voice is gone. Did he unplug himself?
I can hear him.
No?
I can hear you, Austin.
Can you hear me?
No.
So Jason can hear me.
I wonder if I should leave and come back in. Maybe it's me.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the stream. The stream is acting funny.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave and come back in.
Okay.
I'll leave and come back in because this happens with me sometimes. Hold on.
Okay.
I've been worried because my internet is not the best, and it doesn't help because my bedroom where my desk is the opposite side of the house from where the router is. The internet hookup. And there's just nothing I can do. That's just where it is in this house.
Yeah.
And we don't own this house, right? So I can't okay, we're gonna go drill some holes.
We're gonna fix it. Yeah.
We're gonna fix that. Oh,
I need to put Michael back in. There you go.
I can hear you now.
Oh, nice. Good. Yeah, so that I was just telling you, that whole experience kind of got me back into it again, and so it's been a lot of fun.
That's cool.
Doing that.
Dude, you want to think, I don't know if you guys are into sort of role-playing games or story-building games, but I discovered one about a month ago from my friend Johnny that is one of the wildest, funnest experiences.
The one that you posted on Instagram, right?
Yeah, the Icarus. Holy crap. It's so much fun. And if you want to play a game that you will build a world in, that game is amazing. So Jason, I'm assuming you didn't see me posting about it, but
no.
It's a game where basically you and a group of people create a city, and you create a city called Icarus at the height of its power, and you're going to tell the story of how it's destroyed. Spoiler alert, everyone, it always gets destroyed. There's no but like I got Stephen McCraney on one night, Josh Ulrich, Johnny Jemison, Brian Russell, like the 5 of us got on and did like a virtual session of it, and it was like the wildest, coolest thing ever. And we have the whole story laid out in a Google document. Where like, because we were doing it through Google, a shared Google Doc, so we could see what everyone was creating and building. And you can
Nice.
but I started building with my kids too. Like we created a city on the back of a crab that was like this city of people that were living on the back of this giant crab that was sick and was like leading himself into shallower and shallower water and starting to die. And there was like this god race of like seahorse beings that we were aligning ourselves with that were manipulating us. It's like it can be as serious or crazy, or silly as you want. But man, it's a fun game. It's definitely worth picking up, and you can play with little kids. Like it's a storytelling game. It's a DM-less role-playing game. There is no DM. You're not controlling anything. A lot of it's driven through cards and writing notes down and then getting feedback from everybody. It's cool.
Yeah, I need to try that. My oldest, one of his cousins, started getting into like playing with them, kind of like a children's version of D&D with like no rules, basically, right? Where they were just like making up stories, and so he was so excited at the idea of playing D&D. So I finally went and like bought a little like starter set to try, because I did a little bit of that with my older cousins growing up. Like we had one that was based on some Japanese cartoon show that we did a bunch called Bubblegum Crisis.
Yeah,
and so like
Bubblegum Crisis.
Yeah, so we like did role playing of that. So I've been trying. We've done it. We've played like once or twice, like tried doing it, but it's definitely pretty intense for a 5-year-old. But I think something like that sounds perfect. Not to mention, it sounds like crazy fun.
Yeah, and because the game is really, all it does is present scenarios to you. You as a group will create like, what is the city? What are our, what is it? The game doesn't tell you to like go in any sort of direction. And so like when I sat down with those guys to create it, I was like, I want to do a session with like a bunch of other storytellers and see what the heck we come up with. And we were probably 40 minutes into it, just developing this world, because one of us was like, where do we want it to be? Yeah, we want to create it on a planet that is not a part of a celestial system. So it's like this rogue planet drifting in open space. We're like, okay, what's going on there? And like, we're like 40 minutes into this thing and we haven't even started playing because we're just developing this crazy world. And then finally the story started and just insanity broke out. It was fun. It's cool, man. Definitely worth checking out. You can buy like a digital version of it for like $10 on some website, RPG Drive-Thru or something like that, or Drive-Thru RPG. And then, but it's like $25 to buy the physical copy on Amazon, and it comes with all the dice and all that good stuff. I've actually been meaning to play it again. I played it about a month ago, and then kind of I played it a lot in like the span of a week with a few sessions, and I was like, all right, I'm a little burnt out on this. And I'm like, dang, I want to create a city and destroy it again. And what's sort of cool is like how much it sticks with you. Like the story will really kind of stay with you if you really took the time to create something interesting. So like my kids were doing fan art of the cities we made, and like one of them, like we were like, we're going to create a city that's more silly. So it was like a city made out of food. And it was kind of, we had this, the part of the game, there's like this tower that you're building in the center of the city that is a monument to your greatness. And that's sort of what indicates the fall of your civilization, is when that tower falls. And in the story, there was a king cheeseburger who was forcing everybody to eat cheeseburgers. And the tower in the center of the city was in his honor. And because there was all this unrest in the city, McDonald's cheeseburgers showed up, and they were mad that they weren't being eaten or something. And they tried to destroy the monument, but they were trying to destroy it with milkshake machine guns, but they didn't work because their ice cream machine was down. Because McDonald's ice cream machines are always down.
That is awesome.
just inspires a lot of silly fan art and that sort of thing. If that's the direction you go with it.
Yeah, I love that. Like I love watching my oldest son do that kind of stuff. I mean, like 3 months ago, he was playing with some of our Duplos that we have because we have a pretty big collection.
Mm-hmm.
And he had me come in and he was showing me that he was building the rig from Cythera.
Oh, nice.
Dang.
And it was pretty fun. Like, it's just, I love that kind of thing, right? Like, that's what I want with telling stories to like kids. I want to inspire them to want to actually go do something themselves, because that's what my favorite stuff did to me when I was growing up.
Yeah, for sure.
So that kind of game would be awesome.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Where like I really hope that it's still weird to me when I find out like that my book is like a kid's favorite book ever made. Kind of thing. Like it's like, wow, it's kind of crazy and special.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if they'll create anything, but just the idea that you leave that sort of impression on them that sticks with them, you know.
Well, guys, I think I'm going to go and have some lunch.
Sounds good.
So
it's like what, 1:15 your time? Man, you blazed right through lunchtime.
2:15.
Jeez, son.
I need to eat earlier than I normally do. See, let me catch up on these questions real quick. Can you post YouTube?
I posted one
for the storyteller. Okay, good.
I took care of that.
Did you get this one? Hey, again, any ideas on how to host a webcomics as PDFs on one's own site? I want to do it for men, but my only idea, I can't read, guys. I don't know how to do the PDFs. I usually put them in Dropbox and then send people a link if I want to give people a PDF. Yeah.
Well, I wonder if they could try like Gumroad.
Gumroad.
Like something like that. Like do it for free, right? Because then people can just sign up and get it.
That might work. That might be a way to do it.
Yeah, I actually just house it on Dropbox, and I just get the share link for Dropbox. Just create a link that way. Gumroad's an option too, but it creates an additional barrier. And if you're trying to give it away for free, it's just one more thing to deal with, you know?
Yeah. Okay, I think we're caught up. All right. Well, anyone watching, you can now officially become a member of Brew Crew. So there's become member on my YouTube channel now. I know you guys are just going to be fighting to get there. So one at a time. Anyway, I don't know. I'll give people some extra little things and stuff that I'd probably only give to my patrons if anyone joins that. So we'll see. Thanks for watching on Twitch and YouTube, and eventually I'll have Facebook streaming at the same time, but that's just going to take some time to. I got to make a little bit more money to justify upgrading again, so I can do that. And check out Cognitive Drawing too if you guys want to learn how to draw. I got it on Kickstarter right now. I think the link is in the campaign. I think the link is below. Just search for Cognitive Drawing on Kickstarter. And that's all I got for you. So thanks, Austin and Michael, for hanging out this whole time.
Yeah. Thanks for having us, man.
You guys have links you want to share with anyone before we go? Twitters.
I don't have a lot going on. Yeah, just Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah.
I think I'm Michael Regina on Twitter and Michael E. Regina on Instagram.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, I'm AW Shirtliff on Instagram. So SHURTLIFF. So if you want to, I'm gonna try to get better at posting stuff on there.
Yeah, just like it's spelled in your under your picture there. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Good to talk with you, and nice to get to talk to you, Austin. We've known each other. We've known each other on the internet for a long time, but
I've watched for a while. Had a chance to talk, so that's great.
Indeed, man. Cool.
All right,
guys. Y'all have a good one.
Okay, we'll see you.